interesting. Anyways. So, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode with Life. My buddy Brendan will be joining us shortly, and I'm looking forward to it. I haven't talked to him know each other. I've probably known him almost 20 years now. Longer, actually just a little over 20 years. I think I've known him, and we'll jump into part of the story. And this is recording will first be for my buddy Brendan. What's up, bro? Make sure your audio's on and your video. I still can't hear you yet. If you can hear me. Down to the left, there's like a unmute button. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, dude. What's up, man?
It's not much. How does it sound? Does it sound?
Oh, dude, you're good. I could tell you're on a mic, which is good. In my opinion, that's a good thing. You can always tell when people are on mics or not on mics. Which, I mean, at this point, it's subjective because there's people that have like 3 million followers and they just go because they can. You know, they just start recording and they just go for it.
Let me see. Well, that's good. You can hear them on let me see. Focus. I got a manual focus because focus. We were testing it out yesterday and the focus was tripping out. So
gotcha.
I'm just gonna keep it on manual. I think
It's
we're
all
good.
man. It's all good.
So how you been?
I'm doing pretty swell. A lot of changes that I haven't even brought like necessarily to the podcast. I just kind of keep the podcast, or my podcast, I keep it just focused on stuff that interests me outside of work. It's kind of like the thing that gets me off my mind, from work. So,
okay. What are you doing now?
Well, so I work in an ER. I work in a hospital.
Oh, nice.
Coast. Yeah. I've been in the ER for a year now. Honestly, the simplest way to put it is like I'm basically like an LVM, but I can do a bunch of more things, but plus like with an LVN type certificate.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How's that?
Go ahead.
No. How's it been like over there? It's
definitely. Well, it was interesting because my first 6 months here, I was more of like a security detail type deal at the beginning of COVID.
Gotcha.
When I got here, it was like more like a security detail. It was more like asking questions like, hey, like, do you have symptoms and all that stuff? And then finally I got to get into the ER and I got to catch probably like almost that downward wave of COVID for 2020. And
okay.
so even with that, we got to see that, man, it's definitely humbling. It's probably like a good summarizing word because not being in medical to then just fucking being in medical. Are you okay? Am I okay to cuss on this?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I try not to do it often because I feel like it's not like it's not the most professional thing, but it's like sometimes it's like it's the matter of fact of like what I'm talking about. Anyways,
right. Yeah.
So seeing some of that and then that flu/COVID season for 2020 is when I really got to see. That's when we had the next little uptick, and that's where again just seeing people sick. Right.
Gotcha.
It's different. And it's a hard game to not a game, but it's a hard medium to play because as a patient, you want to be taken care of, to the best of your ability. When you're, in my opinion, what I've seen and what I've learned on this side, it's like, well, let us take care of you then. Because then we'll have people come in with like, well, I've done my research and this and that, and like, there's nothing wrong with that. But then there's, when you talk to Dr. Google, it's not. They give you too much information sometimes,
Oh yeah.
So it's seen that balance, and but to keep it on the learning side, it's been pretty cool. Learning how to do like IVs and like other
nice
interventions that I get to do now.
That's cool.
I also got. I'm also able to do. I'm also part of the EMT crew, so I do that. Every like right now because I'm on the night shift, so I'm not doing it at the moment. But when I'm on the day shift, I'll do it like 3-4 times a month where I'll do runs. We'll do runs and stuff.
Oh, nice. I hear the ride outs are pretty cool. Like, you just sometimes they're cool. I hear it's like
the ride along type thing.
Yeah, I hear sometimes mostly it's just like you're just picking up like
So
Yeah.
so that's yeah. So as a basic EMT, that's the crazy part because like when I'm in the hospital, I get to do like A through A through Z plus a ton more, right? And as an
Right.
EMT, once I get on that ambulance, it's like reduced to just like, hey, they need to stay alive. Are they stable? Yes, there's 100% of the time they're stable. It's just transferring them to another place or what or picking up whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Having to like just draw back that mental game. Like, okay, what can I do? What can I not do? And and because then we can get it even into like the legalities of things, right? It's still like my license covers me for
Right.
this when I'm on the ambulance, and my license covers me for this when I'm not in the ambulance. It's
Yeah,
it's
of
it's pretty
course.
cool. It's pretty cool. It's been an interesting ride because this has been a 2 year run that'll be a long ass story when I'm done with this whole thing.
Oh, nice.
But the gist of it is that yeah, I'm in an ER right now. It's been a cool experience. And then I'll be here. I mean, I'll still be doing this for another at least 6 to 8 months before I go off to my next adventure, which I honestly don't know yet, but I know it's it's gonna happen in the next 6 to 8 months.
Cool, cool. And where are you at? Well, like what hospital or what city or?
Well, so I'm in Southern California. I
Oh
won't
wow,
I
I did.
won't yeah yeah I'm in, yeah. Well, it's funny. So just to side note for our listeners when they get to this when they get to listen to this episode. Me and Brennan we had I was mentioning just before you got on. I was like, man, I hadn't talked to Brennan in at least a few years, but we've known each other for over 20 years now,
I
just
think
about
since
like over
elementary
20 years.
school at
That's
least.
that's what I'm saying when I said 20 years, and I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
well, elementary school, like that was a freaking long time ago now, like that,
yeah,
so
dude.
a little over 20 years that me and you have known each other.
Yeah, dude.
Did you go to Freddie in kindergarten, first
Yeah.
grade? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're like at 25 years now. We're like at
Yeah,
25 years,
dude.
and we've technically know each other. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
but anyway, so I'm in Southern California. I'm at a hospital in Southern California is what I can say for now. But I'm in an ER in Southern California.
Okay, cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. And what took you out over there? Like, you left the valley, so what?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've never even vaguely told my side of the story because again in the podcast I just kind of like dive into like stuff that I'm interested in. That's
Uh-huh.
it, your music or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So so you obviously I was playing with Eddie for a good. I played with him for two. We finished up about 2 years. I got to play with him for 2 years. He brought out a record and we did that whole thing.
Nice.
But to be honest, if I can be as transparent and as honest, I started getting tired. I started getting tired of the drives and everything. And what I learned very very quickly when I started going through this mental transition was that it wasn't the people I was with, Gonzo, Eddie, like my all our buddies, all our music buddies. I was literally just getting just bad. I'll say battle, but just fatigue of
Gotcha.
being on the road all the time. Um, and some of it was financial stress too. It's like, man, trying to do this thing which I enjoyed, but then it started becoming I started not enjoying it anymore, and I felt, and maybe this was me just really getting into my head, but I feel like I wasn't being a good person anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like I wasn't being, in my eyes, I wasn't being nice anymore. It's like, and not that, I mean, we have our on and off days, but this started like 1 week, and then it turned into a month, and turned into 2 months. And when it started hitting the 2 month mark, when I started realizing, like, man, like, what am I gonna do? I don't know.
Yeah,
This is,
exactly.
mind you, this is 20. Man, this was already 2018, mind you. So this has been a little stretch leading to where I'm at now. But this was 2018. Um, when it just started kind of like getting in my head. I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? And then mind you, so this is a whole 2 years before even COVID. So it wasn't
Oh
like, oh, it was not like I was planning on like, oh, I'm gonna go into the medical field and do X, Y, and Z. It just a lot of it now in hindsight is serendipity.
no.
But essentially, yeah, I just started getting tired of I started getting tired of the road. I got tired of the road, and actually I had a buddy text me the other day, another musician buddy, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm getting the bug again." He had kind of left the scene as well, and he was texting me. He's like, "Hey, are you ever gonna play again when you get back?" I'm like, honestly, right now I have zero interest. Right now, it's not that
Hmm.
I don't want. It's not that I don't want to. Maybe in the future, it's not that I don't think it might be a possibility. But right now, like where I'm at, it's like no, like I'm still fatigued and warm from just the thought of going on the road.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Um,
You still play though by yourself, like
oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
no. That's the funny thing is that even so this has happened to me individually before, because when I went from high school to college, I had left all my gear at home and I didn't play for like a year. And then eventually like, why I need at least an acoustic guitar, like, and the same thing's kind of happened here where I bought a guitar here while I'm down in San Diego. Um, I bought a guitar and so I started playing again. And it's selfishly for me, even when I post like on TikTok, so it's just me recording on my GoPro with some decent audio and I just upload it because that's what I'm doing at that moment. And I just upload it. And then, now there's some songs that I'm like, oh, like I actually try to learn them pretty good, or, I try to learn them better. Right. But again, it's all very selfish just for me. Like, hey, just, 5-10 minutes and I get out of my system and then I'm off to my next, whatever I'm doing for the rest of the day.
Nice. Okay,
but yeah,
well,
man,
it's good, man. It's good that you made a change, though. Like, if you find yourself like not happy with what, or if you're constantly in a bad mood, even though it's something that is maybe it's a good sign that it's time for a change. It was,
yeah, no, right.
That's
right,
what
yeah.
I did. I did the same thing, man. So
what?
yeah.
Okay, well, man, I'm trying. I want to keep this on like the question, like you asking questions because this is for your podcast, which will eventually turn into my podcast. But what got you into photography? That's the. We can dive into the next thing whenever you're ready. But like,
well, nobody's ever asked me that.
I am generally curious as to like what made you just make the ultimate dive, because I feel like you've gone full fledged, and it's pretty cool seeing the transition from no social media to like, hey, trying to make social media a thing and photography being
right.
your hustle.
Well, thank you for the question, because there's no public podcast. This is like only 4 or 5 episodes in, but nobody's actually ever asked that yet. So it was actually our kids. I mean, in high school, I did a little bit, for the yearbook club, but I got kicked out because I'm just a bad employee. Funny. I'm a terrible employee. I'm not a good employee at all. Well, that's one thing I realized. So. Okay. Anyways,
we'll actually go into that. Okay, now
that's fine. That's fine.
We gotta start unlocking some of this stuff. It's just interesting for me because we're like similar things that have happened where we realize certain things are ourselves, and now we find ourselves here at 28, 29, 30 years old, and it's like, oh, I'm not that, and it's like, when I'm not that, changes need to be made. And anyways, I'm interested.
No, yeah. I mean, if you realize, I realized early on that I'm not. I don't like being told to do certain things. That I just and I want to be the person that's making my own decisions. It didn't start out that way. I think this built over 4 or 5 years of doing photography. But that's anyway. So
you said it started with your kids. You said
right.
It started with the kids, and
when Avery was born, we bought a camera. Photography has always been part of our lives, especially in high school and stuff. That was our sort of thing. But once we had Avery, we went out and bought a camera, a Canon. It was actually a full frame, so it was like a professional camera.
Oh damn!
but and our buddy Caesar was the one that told us like, hey, you should buy the Rebel. And we were like, nah.
That's funny because that's what I run right for now. Like I'm like I can't buy a full frame, and for the listeners who don't know what the fuck we're talking about, it's a camera thing. It's relevant to us, but not relevant to you as a listener to the storytelling. But yeah. I still run a T6i. They don't even make the freaking battery chargers anymore. Like I can't even buy one at the camera store.
Just know that it's if you're listening, it's a very expensive camera. It's like 3 or 4 times cost of like the entry level. It just but with the return on investment, it starts to diminish with cameras as the higher you go. But anyways, we just said screw it, we'll buy one, and that's how we got into it.
Well, I'm curious. What'd you start out with? Was it like fucking 5D Mark IV?
Yeah. Oh, actually, well, I know. Tell me about it. Well, before that, actually, it was we had the Sony the A6000.
Okay.
And I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why we got rid of it. I think it was mostly my wife, Regina, who wanted the 5D Mark IV. Ever since high school, she's wanted the 5D.
Yeah.
Like as long as it was like always like talking about it, and then finally. We just said, you know what, screw it, we'll just buy it. And and we sold the Sony A6000, but I regret selling it, knowing the capabilities later.
Right. It's fun. So I have I guess I have a similar like situation with my guitar gear. So at a certain point, I would sell and I would buy my gear, use it, and then when I was ready to move on to a new guitar or a new pedal or whatever, I would sell the gear, use that money to buy new gear. And at a certain point, when I started with Eddie was when I'm like, I need to stop selling my shit because every time I sometimes I just want it like from the memory. Sometimes like it's like there's a
Uh-huh.
certain pedal or certain thing that I've done where I'm like, oh, like I used that fucking guitar in Las Vegas. It's like, why did like for me, why did I sell? Like,
Right.
and so now with my camera gear, it's like I haven't sold it. I have a point and shoot that I got gifted junior year of high school, and I it's not here with me, but I own it's at home in a Ziploc bag just so I won't get kind of stay
Gotcha.
away from the moisture and stuff. But it's interesting finding those things. There's like, why did I
Exactly.
sell it? Like, and the moment obviously you want the cash so you can buy new gear or
Right.
whatever it is, but
Yeah.
5 years later, it's like, oh man, I could have really.
Yeah, I could look
I would
back on that.
appreciate having it on my little shelf there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and then it was funny how it evolved though, man. Like I started just posting stuff on Facebook and Instagram, and then people started reaching out to me to take photos of their kids because it's always posting was because my kids, and they wanted like baptism photos and then first communion, all that stuff. And then just out of nowhere, somebody asked. It was actually our friend Caesar. You know him, Caesar Vela,
Yeah,
right?
I,
Yeah.
yeah, no
So
doubt.
yeah, so he had a friend last minute, literally like the week of the wedding, that needed a photographer.
Oh damn.
So of course I was like, sure.
Yeah,
I've
right.
never,
Like,
I've never, I've never shot a wedding before in my life, so
how
I'll
was
do
that?
it.
How was that? Do you
Well,
remember like just kind of going through that experience?
yeah. The week leading up to the wedding, first I met with a couple. Well, we should go back, right? I met with a couple. You fake it till you make it, kind of thing, and then so the week leading up to the wedding was YouTube. I just literally watched as many like wedding tutorial videos, like walking through an entire process of a wedding, what equipment they used, and yeah, I ended up renting some gear, some camera gear, a
I was
second
gonna ask.
camera.
I was gonna ask how did you do with the gear thing? Because
Yeah,
I struggle with that. Sometimes I'll save up money, buy the gear, and then I'm like 2 months out of actually using the gear. Sometimes
exactly. Yeah,
I
well,
try
we
to
had
rig it.
two. Well, we had two lenses already to exactly. We had two lenses to start with, and the 5D body. So I just had to rent a second camera, and and I ended up bringing a photographer she was from Indiana, who had just moved down. So she had a photography business up north, but she moved down, and so she didn't want to restart it. But so it was good to have somebody with me that was kind of a little bit more experienced than I was. But man, I loved it, dude. I really loved it because it felt like I was just at a party taking photos. It was super chill, and thankfully, I had a good experience because you'll hear a lot of people saying that the clients that don't pay you as much are the ones that are going to be the most demanding and the most needy and the
Right.
most rude to you because they don't see you as an artist. As cliche as that
Right.
sounds.
No. Right. No. Yeah. But man, yeah. No. Yeah. I hear that. I hear that.
So
It's a
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
hard it's a hard game to play when you're the hired party versus the party hiring. Because
right,
when you're on one side, it's like, oh, I want the most, for my money, and then on the other side, it's like, I'll give you all I can, as much, as all that I can, as much as I can.
right.
But it'd be nice for just like, hey, thank you, versus like, hey, can you do this,
Hmm.
and that? It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
thankfully, I think I would say 99% of my clients have been like that. They've never, and I guess it's because I'm super laid back and chill. And the phrase is like, you can't beat a dead horse. I'm already kind of just down and chill.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I feel like nobody finds the need that they need to kind of like try. They wouldn't get far.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
I'm really chill. And so people never give me a hard time. All my couples have been very, very, like everybody. It's been great. I've had great experience. And, I love it, man. I just do. I just
That's cool, man. Man, that's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, I really do. And this I had something similar to you, where I was just at work, man. Very and of course this was during the COVID time. So a lot of people don't know I used to work as a nurse in the hospital in ICU. So COVID really hit us hard, and it wasn't it wasn't something I wanted to go back to, especially now with the second wave. So I was like, yeah, I had to take some time off,
Hmm.
just mental breaks because it was rough,
Yeah.
man, very
I
rough.
mean, I imagine you're doing your 12s as well. You're doing 12s, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're really, yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you can definitely relate to, or just like just how the hospital was, how a hospital was, and so yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say, um, you definitely know what I'm talking about as far, if you haven't been in healthcare, and
Yeah.
now we're met, there's photography, but there's healthcare, and it's like it's just a different animal. And when you're on the end of having to take care of people, it's like we do try, but then after a 72 or something, it's like, hey, I'm kind of tired.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did a COVID contract, man, and we were doing 5 days minimum a week.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah, five, and I
Dude,
did that for
I'll
a
do
while.
three in a row and I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
cooked for 2 days. Like no shit. Like three where I work, I'll do three, and the next 2 days that I'm off, it's like I'm just it's just recovery. I don't do shit.
Yeah.
I'll go to the gym for 30, 45 minutes if that. And
Yeah.
I'll
It
go on the
was.
second day, not the first day off. The first day off is usually just recovery. I'll eat some fucking junk food and
Hmm.
just sit in my room and shut the fuck up. I'll just be
Right.
quiet. Like I don't
Yeah.
even, you know,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
it's funny because that's what's led to to kind of dive into like the podcast world. That's what's kind of led me to some of my inconsistencies, because like sometimes like I'm just tired. Like I I
Right.
do want to just sit down and watch. Like I want to be productive, but then I'm just like I can't function. Like I'm like I just want to sit and watch Hulu or whatever
Right. Right.
for 10 hours and just go back to sleep. Eat and go back to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the nurses, like the memes of the nurses online and stuff, is always like if you see the TikToks and stuff like of nurses, it's always like what it's like to date a nurse, and it's like they're always sleeping. That's probably exactly why, because it's just the shifts take a lot out of you, man.
Especially
And,
coming off shift. Especially coming off
yeah.
shift. Like, because like I know, like I mean, for our hospital, it's not. It's for us. It's a decent size, because I mean, this is the only hospital I've ever worked at, right? So I don't have experience outside of this one hospital. But our inpatient flow is not that much. It just comes in waves.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not to say, oh, there's freaking 20 ICU patients all the time, right? But in the ER, it's like it's just and we're the only, obviously we're the only department outpatient that's open 24 hours a day,
Gotcha.
and that's just where it takes a toll. That's where it takes, so where it's open all the time, and it's like we're seeing everything from just a sprained ankle to then we're having intubation because this person has COVID and their lungs are giving out now.
Yeah, it's
um,
terrible, man.
it's
Yeah.
it's that's where like I retain to say, like, or I go back to, or regress to say, like, that's where it's humbling, because unless you've been in that room with that doc having to do those procedures, then it's like, like it's a different animal. It's different.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, now I don't know how to do it, because obviously you have HIPAA, you have all this private, which is good for the patient. It protects everybody. But it's like, man, like I feel like there's not enough education on,
Mhm.
like, not what it takes. Like, we in the end of at the end of the day, we went into that ER, that ICU, wherever, that hospital, and we chose a job right in that moment. But
Mhm.
like I feel like there's not enough education on, like, hey, like, this is what we're doing. We do X, Y, and Z to help this, and there's not enough education on, like, the ins and outs of the ER. There's a lot of education on, like, how to travel. Like, I've seen, like, travel nurses and, like, different avenues you can take as a nurse. Think the more lighthearted, funny things you see as a nurse, but like I'm default very serious and default aggressive sometimes, and it's like, but yeah, so like you see all the funny stuff, but look at the serious stuff too, and
Yeah.
obviously you can't show half that stuff because, again, it's HIPAA, it's protecting the patient, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
it's
I
like,
feel
man,
like
there's not enough conversation about the serious parts of what goes on in the
yeah,
hospital.
and during COVID, I think maybe the seriousness of that, maybe I think that's one of the things that maybe HIPAA might have kind of gotten in the way during this time, because I feel like if people actually saw what was going on and you can actually see, I think the perspective of the public might have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
Because it's always one sided when it comes to the hospital and issues. We only hear the side of the patient usually in
Yeah,
the hospital.
or the majority of the time, the majority is like, oh,
Majority of the time, yeah. And the thing is, HIPAA doesn't allow the hospital to come out and try and either defend themselves or give information out, because it's violating patients' rights
yeah,
to privacy and stuff. So it's very difficult to be in the healthcare field, because you just kind of have to take a lot of backlash, and you really can't retaliate until
Yeah.
what's actually going on, which is unfortunate.
yeah.
But it's what it is.
Yeah, right,
It's what it
right.
is.
It's like, and that's where it's like I have nothing else. That's why,
That's what-
and that's why I never, or not never, but for now, I haven't really brought any information to the podcast as far as healthcare. I mentioned that I'm healthcare. I mentioned that I work at a hospital, but there's very minimal information mentioned um about like detailed things that I get to see and
Mhm.
experiences, because it's like it's just for the sake of everybody. It's also it's also my ability to practice, and then outward to everybody else, just protecting all my coworkers, and then the patients as well, because then the balance is like when you do get those patients that are very reluctant to come in, but they come in because they actually are sick, or they're very very nice, when they're sick, and they're just nice, and they're just like, just please help me. Like I've had a couple,
Mhm.
I have had a couple of situations where, like, hey, can you just help me? It's like, yeah, I'll do the best I can until the doctor can come in, and so on. So we're getting IV
Yeah.
started, or whatever, whatever I can ultimately do until doc can come in and see the patient.
Y- Yeah, I think there's also things should be some more education as far as that goes because of they clog up the ER. Some people that go to the ER and they don't need to be there, right? Because there's
Yeah.
people that are like
Yeah,
that, right?
right.
Like,
No,
oh, I
yeah,
got a
yeah,
ingrown toenail or something. Like that's not an emergency.
yeah.
Yeah, there definitely needs to be more education for that. Absolutely, because yeah, because there are emergencies, but majority of
Yeah,
the time
there
it's
are,
some
yeah.
people going for sniffles or this or that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not an emergency, and it ends up clogging up the ER.
Yeah. No, yeah. And then, and
And
then, and then, and
and then
then
they
that's where it's
complain
like,
too, like, why am I not being seen? It's like, I'm sorry,
it's
sir or
like, sorry,
ma'am.
we're working the best we can.
There's somebody over here that lost their leg. We're
Yeah,
trying
right,
to
right. Yeah, yeah.
reattach the
Yeah.
leg.
Yep, yep. Or they smashed their hand on, like we had one, I can mention just the vague of it, but they smashed their hand on a steel door.
Yeah.
So broke one of the fingers, had to do some sutures on the other hand, on the other finger, but like he smashed his finger, like, yeah, like that, and then having to
It's,
irrigate it because he's a mechanic.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like, hey, like there's oil and grease and all that junk,
yeah,
all that stuff's getting there, and think about
yeah.
infection, and it's like, yeah, 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 and
People need to understand the triage process, right? The sicker patients are going to get seen first over the
yeah,
cold and the ingrown toenail and all that
yeah,
stuff. Like that gets priority in the
yeah. And the funny thing about the cold now, it's like, hey, you're gonna get swabbed. We gotta see,
exactly, yeah,
and it's like, well, I don't think it's COVID. I'm like, man, but we have to swab you, man. We have to make
I
sure. And
know,
then they comes out positive. It's like, well, I can't do anything if you do have COVID. Like, I
right?
mean, I can't do anything as far as like, you're
Yeah,
going to go to this side of the hospital and we're going to take care of you because you do
yeah,
have COVID,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
and then
yeah.
because,
Everything is COVID now. Like our
yeah,
daughter, she started school last week, and
mm,
she had some sniffles and a little cough and a fever, and we're like, oh boy, here we go.
yeah,
We had, so of course, before sending her back to school, we had to
yeah,
the
there's a
school
whole
didn't,
process now.
yeah, the school didn't require us, but I mean, we're just
Oh,
being like,
really?
yeah, no, they were
That's
just like,
interesting. I'm surprised. I'm surprised they did.
they didn't know about it either. Like it happened Friday night. So
Okay,
Friday
okay.
night she started showing some symptoms and stuff. So it's like, well, and so we'll just see how she does Saturday, and then Saturday came out, and so it was like, okay, we had to wait till Monday because the offices were closed. So
Yeah, yeah.
but we was just doing the right thing, right? We don't send her home. We don't want to send her to school with COVID.
Oh, for sure.
so
Yeah,
so it was
man.
negative, and
Well,
but
that's good.
that's the
That's a
thing.
really
Like
good thing.
everything is COVID.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
that's the first thing that pops into your head, it's like, oh boy, like But
yeah. And especially like you have gone through that healthcare, as a job, and me currently, and it's like, yeah, like, our minds, we just think differently about certain things now, and not because we now, it's because we have to, but it's not the proper verb. It's like we just do it now because that's just the nature of what you've learned, and
yeah,
what we're doing. It's like, hey, yeah, you potentially have COVID. You have stomach ache, you might have COVID.
right, right.
Like,
I know
like nausea,
it's
vomiting,
headache,
nausea,
even a
nausea, vomiting,
headache.
diarrhea. It's like you might have a COVID. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the headache is the
Um,
worst. I hear the headache's pretty bad too. So if you had a headache for even a week, you're probably like, you should go get checked if it's not
yeah,
something normal. It's
man,
so
we
weird.
we've had some patients come in, and and again, this goes back to the ones that it's not their fault. But we had to come where they come. Let's just say they come in for a bug, literally a bug bite. But then
Mm,
they get to the doctor and they start talking and they start giving the rest of their history.
hmm.
And then doc's like, hey, we gotta swab this person. It's like, and we've all been in there like exposed, like pretend, we've been exposed because we weren't treating for
Right,
all this other stuff. And then, yeah, it's not even the bug bite. It's actually they thought it was the bug bite bringing them in as a patient, but it's actually not even that. It's like the least of their worry.
right, right.
I've
Yeah,
seen that. I've seen that where like then they come out positive for COVID. It's like, oh, you're actually, it's not the bug bite.
Yeah.
patient.
Yeah. It's hard being a healthcare worker because you never know. You just never know what you're
I
being
know.
exposed to anymore.
Yeah,
Like, you're
yeah.
just like, well,
Good.
what it is.
I think one thing I can bring up that you'll relate, not relate to, but you can understand. So we were talking. This was literally months ago, like probably like December January time frame, and the doctors were like, imagine all the years of no masks anywhere. Now imagine that same amount of people just coming in and out in hospitals all around the world pre-COVID, and
Mm.
now like this COVID thing. Obviously, like now we have masks on and all that stuff, but like all that secondary
Mm-hmm.
potential of like just getting something from somebody else because you go in, it's like, oh, there wasn't this pandemic going on, but there's still all this disease and like sickness going on, right? But like we never
Mm-hmm.
wore masks. There was no
Mm-hmm.
mask, there was no like covered rooms like specifically for COVID patients. Like all this
Right.
thing, gear for COVID, for us to use to keep us able to work, with COVID patients, stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Not just the N95, like the most basic, but it's like, man, like all the, like year, like 100 years, like just like going to a hospital into an ER because you're sick with a cold or whatever. It could be anything. And the turn of of 1 year, it's like now, like I never want to not wear a mask. Basically, basically, it's like
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
like
It's you're
I
just
try to
kind of
keep
paranoid
I try
and
to keep my distance as much as possible whenever I'm like out in public. But went
yeah.
to a couple of, we actually went to Disney. I'll say recently because I don't know when exactly this episode is going to come out, but recently I went to Disney and all that stuff. And when I go to the gym, sometimes depending on it all depends on the crowd. Like what do I see? Can I keep my distance? Because I won't wear a mask if I can keep my distance. But like someplace like Disney and like California Adventure, like I went and I wore a mask. It's like, man, like there actually wasn't as many people as there has been like other times that I went pre-COVID,
Mm.
but but there's enough people where it's like, yeah, like I don't feel safe not wearing a mask. I find maybe it's the bare minimum protection, but it's something. It's
Yeah.
definitely something because I have, again, it goes back to the education of like,
Mm.
I've been in the hospital, I've seen these things going on, and people actually sick with
Yeah.
more than, let's say they're not even COVID positive, but let's just say they're sick with something else. Like seeing that person sick, it's like, yeah, I want to protect myself any which way I can
Yeah.
versus not.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah. Once you see it, you'll. I think that changes people's minds pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Just seeing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So you do. Are you still like doing photography, or are you
So
kind of?
okay. The what I have been doing as far as photography goes, I have a lot of catalog. I have a like just I have a catalog that I've saved of things that I've either places I've been or moments I've captured with it's mostly for the most part it's mostly family.
Mhm.
Um but I didn't have my camera gear until my parents brought it up for me. So I just got my camera back, which it's just a T6i, which I had since 2017. Because I had started making vlogs in 2017.
Oh, nice.
I did like almost 100 episodes total.
Oh, wow. Really?
Um,
You have
yeah.
on a YouTube channel? Like you have a YouTube?
So yeah, no, yeah. It's under. I think it's under Andy A. I'll send you the link for the
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
show
I'll
notes
put
for
it.
your show notes and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But so no, yeah, I had started a YouTube channel like and the thing is for me it's very similar to you because it goes back to high school, but then it goes back to before then too. Like I remember just wanting to have. I was as a kid, I was okay with even having just a disposable camera. I didn't even mind having a disposable camera. I didn't know how the picture was gonna come out, but I knew
Right, right.
I always had one. I didn't always have one. We had one. I think I got it from my more from my mom, honestly, because there's a box of freaking VHS like home videos in my home somewhere that I
Mhm.
want to convert eventually, and that's gonna be a whole nother realm of content that I can talk about. But I think I because there was always like a camcorder or a camera in the vicinity, I'm just assuming that kind of just told into me because I do like capturing the moments. And now it's become more intensified because now that I'm not home, now that I don't seem like, I was here for 13 months before I got to go home again because of COVID.
Oh, wow.
So it was just 13 months of working, minimal
Mhm.
time off. The first 6 months of COVID, I was working like 100 hours a week.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I was just doing like whatever. And so like, and it was okay. I had a team under me, like, and at that point, my job was to take care of them. Like, you know, it was like very selfish in my time to so that I can take care of them, right? Like I wasn't, you know, again, I
Right.
wasn't going, or no one was going anywhere. You know, no one was traveling or anything.
All right.
But to stay on the photography thing, so in high school, I got gifted a point and shoot, and I remember using it. I used it through some of college, but there was good, you know, there was guitar playing, you know, playing music. Like there was like,
Mm-hmm.
I've always been just influx with like just things that I either appreciate, I want to learn, or I dive into. Right. In this case, music won the first round. Right.
Oh
Music won
yeah,
that
yeah,
first
of
round.
course,
I
yeah.
did that, but then like there were times where it's like, man, I wish I could capture this moment. That was why I started the podcast too. It's like there was some conversations that I had where it's like, man, like I don't care if I, for whatever reason, this is just internal like instinct. Um, but it's like I don't care if a million people listen to it, but I feel like this story is worth recording for a future purpose. What that purpose was, I don't know. Even now, like to this day, I don't know what a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff means. But I know there's moments like this in the conversation. I know
Yep.
I enjoy conversation where it's like, man, like I think it's worth recording. I think it's worth documenting for
Right.
whatever it is worth in the future. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the purpose of well, the purpose of this and the YouTube channel too. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because you, like you said, you just want to record, document it, and maybe look back on it later and like, hey, man, that's what I was doing a year ago, 2 years
Yeah,
ago,
2 years
whatever.
ago.
3 years ago. Yeah. You know. So
And
it's true.
so when I was doing the music with Eddie, one trip I wish I that I do no actually it's technically two, but the one main trip that I wish I would have documented the whole time was going to Nashville with Eddie.
Mm.
And so I took pictures and I posted pictures because I, you know, still the whole Walker thing.
Mm.
That was the whole different like hustle. But the whole adventure of like going to Nashville, seeing a record being made, getting to meet these musicians, a lot of them
Nice.
were musicians that played on like various records that you listen. If anybody who listens to country music, I said this on the podcast, but like anybody who listens to country music or
Uh,
are like more Haggard fans or like old school fans, like a lot of those musicians were on this record that Eddie got to go make, and I got to
wow.
be a part of it and see this being done, right?
Oh man.
And that's one thing where it's like, man, for those five, because we were in, and I don't honestly, I don't remember how long the studio time was, but it was like a 3 week trip, but the record making was let's just say 7 days total, right? From pre-production,
Mm.
going through all the studio, then to post. And
Right.
then that was it. That was our trip to Nashville because then we came back. I think we played like shows in like Dallas, like acoustic shows like in Dallas and San Antonio or something like that. Um, but that's one of those times where it's like, man, I really wish I would have documented that week and just posted vlog. Like I don't even I wouldn't have even cared about editing at that point. It would just been like posting vlog, posting content
Yeah.
because it's like this is cool stuff that again, even tied with healthcare, it's like not everybody gets to see this cool stuff. You know, like at least for me, it's cool. If it's cool for me,
Yeah.
then it must be cool for somebody else. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
again, going from pre-production to production to then post. It's same thing with photography. You plan your event or whatever is coming up. You do your event, then you're in your post to then bring out that
Right.
product for your client or patient or yeah
Exactly.
client.
Exactly. But sometimes it's also like with vlogs and stuff. I like making vlogs, but sometimes when you're busy during like when we went to like New York, we went to California, like it takes a lot of time, man. I mean, it
It
really does.
does. It
it,
does.
like you really physically just have to get in the mindset. Okay, like okay, I need to record. Like it's not like
Yeah.
it's
Good.
just it's yeah no it's just
Well,
it's
you
hard.
follow like Peter McKinnon,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you know about Casey Neistat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
those guys, like I'm like fuck, and those are the ones that at least keep the driving, create the creative me. I'm not. I never consider myself an artist. I never liked drawing. I was never that type of person. But when it comes to like again, yeah, getting out my guitar. When it comes to if I have my camera on at the right moment and just capturing that one moment, which has happened, you know, just random various times, but I at least I know I have my camera, right?
Right.
And but that's what it's come down to. It's like, man, when you are able to capture those moments, like, man, at least that's what keeps the creative flow for me. Again, because
Right. Right.
I'm not a drawing type of artist, but I feel like there is a creative side of me that even I'm still trying to develop because I do like working in healthcare. I do like, you know, doing all these other things that I'm doing that don't allow me to have a camera with me,
Right.
but I do make time when I'm not tired. You
Right.
know,
Right.
like
Exactly.
at this moment, you know, it's like even if it's a 30 minute, no. So the podcast had started like an hour, like 3 hour. We had done 3 hour podcasts in the beginning, and then it finally started developing kind of a flow. So there's the podcasting, there's the vlog thing. but then trying to mash up all that content, yeah, it was a lot. And that's what's always led me. That's one of the things besides work and besides like other things that I do for, for my actual cash flow, um where it's like I I try to just balance it out, but then I fall off the wagon for a month because I'm like, oh fuck, I did, let's just say let's just say I had 4 episodes. Let's say I did 10 episodes of podcasting in 1 month, so I can spend a 2 month space, so I can like I bulk it. But then okay, yeah, then I'm then I'm
Yeah,
out for the
right.
account. So it's trying to mitigate that so I can be more consistent.
Yeah,
Even then,
dude.
like starting a TikTok, like I just started the TikTok, a month or two ago, and it's like I was on a decent roll, and then like yeah, I got tired, and half of it's because
Hmm.
of like I'm tired from work. Like sometimes I just want to come home, and I like
Exactly.
creating, but it's like I don't have the mental capacity at the moment to give a good, not I'm not gonna say product, but just give good content,
Yeah.
just to kind of
Well, you had mentioned Peter McKinnon. He mentions that one of his videos is like the so many apps coming out now. He's like, you got to be on Twitter, you got to be on TikTok. Now you got to focus on your Instagram, and now there's Reels to focus on. Then don't forget
yeah
YouTube, and then YouTube Shorts, and then it's like he's like, what?
yeah
It's just it's just tiring, and I think the recommendation was just to focus on just one or maybe two things like where you could really focus your energy on.
yeah
And because it is true, I tried doing it all, even while I was working the contract, trying to do YouTube and TikToks, and it's just is that's where an editor comes in handy.
yeah yeah
Because good
yeah
lord,
yeah
it never stops. It just never stops. You
it just
always
never
have something
stops.
to do. Yeah.
And there's a podcast that Casey Neistat was the guest on, and I listened to it because his storytelling is obviously phenomenal. It just you literally you can't beat it. You can't beat a
Yeah.
Casey Neistat story. It's just
Yeah.
so well developed. Obviously, you have all his other friends with Peter McKinnon's, all these other guys that they're all
Hmm.
friends, right? They're all buddies in this world,
Yeah.
this media world. But he was
And they make it
saying
look
like,
easy too. He makes it look so
yeah,
easy too. That's the
well,
thing that pisses me off.
the question that was asked to him, well, yeah, it's perfect. The question that was asked to him was along the lines of, when you're editing in the beginning state in his first when he started the vlog, when he's just vlogging every day, and he's like, what was your editing process like? He's like, it would take him an hour for every minute of his
Mm.
vlog to edit. So
Oh
he would
my
have
god.
so he have all this content of whatever he was doing, and then he'd have the story develop within that. Then it would take him. It's not that it would take him at minimum an hour per minute
Wow.
to have the sequence right, to have the story, make sure the story flows, all of it. He was doing an hour per minute. I'm like, I want to not be a bitch and say that I have the time for that, but sometimes it's like
Yeah.
I don't have the I don't even sometimes for me I think it's like I don't have the mental capacity for it.
Yeah. Well, if you think
I don't.
about what made him famous was his daily vlogs, right?
Yeah, yeah,
For a
yeah,
whole
and
year.
that's why they dove into it because they were curious. Like
Because
I don't know if you ever heard of comedian Bert Kreischer or not.
no, I haven't.
So he's a comedian from LA. In the comedian world, in the comedy world, he's hilarious for one, but he's very funny. He has Netflix specials and all that stuff. But he was on his podcast, and he was the one who asked him like, "Hey, how did you edit?" Because Bert's thing is Instagram stories.
Mm.
That's where he wins.
Oh, I see.
He's because for him it goes down to like the editing thing and all that stuff. Because he's like I get overwhelmed and I just want to stop it all. So he just
Yeah.
does Instagram stories, posts all day long, whatever the fuck he's doing, and then they expire
Then
24 hours, and that's it.
yeah.
That's it. He's done. There's
Yeah,
no,
dude,
no
it's incredible to think how he was able to do a vlog every day. That's the thing.
because
Because
he
then if
did.
it takes him 8 hours and his videos were like 5 to 8 minutes long, I mean,
Yep.
and so he would wake up at 6, record, and then gets home late at night. I mean, he's sleeping only a couple of hours
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. He's
night
doing
for that
let's say
whole
4
year,
hours
probably.
I did the math. I mean, I was doing the math. It's like probably 4 hours max a night.
Hmm.
If he was
Yeah.
because that gave me perspective on like his editing because that's always been my curiosity at the end. It's like, man, in post, like how do I not streamline everything, but how am I able to kind of streamline some things so
Hmm.
that when I'm trying to make the story or the content or whatever, it makes sense and I don't have to push too many buttons, right?
Right, right.
And when he said that, I'm like, oh, dude, an hour a minute. Like, I'm like, oh,
Exactly,
that's a
dude.
lot. That's just a
Forget
lot.
it. Forget
Because
about it.
imagine him. He's probably doing like, let's say 3 hours of content throughout his day, right? A total of 3 hours of just raw content, and then he's working down to a minute per hour. He's
Yeah.
knocking them in chunks. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
And they're all chronological. It's not like he's doing like a day scene and a night scene and like making. It's like no. It's all chronological to time,
Hmm.
and he's just shrinking down all these pieces so the story makes sense.
Well, he was. I mean, the thing is, it takes a level of commitment, right,
Oh,
to
for
do
sure.
something like that. And I know he was even so committed. I think, from what I understood, he was on the verge of a divorce with his wife towards the end of that. And if you saw her like Candace in the videos towards the end, you could tell how mad and miserable she looked at like every time.
She looked tired. She looked just beat too. Like yeah,
Me
she just
too,
looked
to
tired.
hell.
Yeah,
And
yep.
he was committed to just doing it, right? Like he made a goal and he was like, it's going to happen no matter what. That is another level of commitment that I don't know that if
Yeah,
it really is insane.
yeah.
But
I wonder. I mean, I want. It's funny because like it's like I feel like it. I don't feel like it makes me think. It it makes me think about is it for what it's worth? Is it a generational thing where like he's able to commit to this just like five? Let's just say I don't know how long it was, but let's just say 5 years of vlogging, right? Because he did a lot of episodes. Like he did.
oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he hit 1,000 episodes or not, but he probably got close. If he didn't, he got probably very close.
Hmm.
He was just doing 7 days a week for multiple years. It wasn't like it was a 1 year thing. It wasn't 365 episodes. It was longer than that.
Yeah.
So let's just say he got to 1,000. It's like, man, like that commitment. And I feel like we have our commitments, but like they're not always relevant to like that creative side. It's like the creative side is a part of us, but it's not our makeup.
Right.
And for me, that's one thing I learned. Because I haven't been on so many. I haven't been on a bunch of other people's podcasts just to record for myself, right? But like the Walker thing, I never got tired of Walker, which was that Andy Walker was my stage name, and I did that, and I started my Instagram account and all this other stuff, and I ran with it. I ran with it religiously, and essentially it was 6 years of Andy Walker. That's how long he existed. It's not that he doesn't. But what I've learned now, it's not that he doesn't exist within me now, but it's a part of me. It doesn't define me.
Right.
And at the beginning of it, it's like I felt like I had to have a stage name because that's what people were doing. Like there's a bunch of people that I know, in Nashville and in Texas that they are using stage names, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But as my personality has been developed, even now, I turned 30 in fucking like 2-3 months. It's like, oh my god. So even as my personality still developing to this day, it's like it is a part of me, but it doesn't define me. So now the people that I've met now in the hospital and all these friends that I've been able to make, I'm like, oh, you did music and you did it. I'm like, yeah, but like, and they're like, why don't you talk about it? I'm like, because like it's just a part of who I am. When you learn about it and you find me on social media, like cool, like you'll get to see what else I do besides just healthcare. Like that's also not, it's not all I do. I do have a creative side. I'm not always serious because a lot of people when they meet me, especially nowadays, it's like I work in a hospital. So, I do all this stuff. I get to do cool stuff. And so they see the more serious side of me because we're taking care of patients and whatever. And I have a bunch of awesome nurses that they really know how to keep it light on the floor for us, so that we can just get through the day. Sometimes when we have one of those longer shifts where it's like, man, like we're just tired and we're just beat, but like we have a lot of awesome nurses that they know how to. Their experience has allowed them to like be able to mentally take care of us while we're on shift, right?
Right.
So, anyways, so fuck, I lost my train of thought. I was like, I just go on these freaking tangents. Where was I at? This happens.
It's okay. You're firing at 1,000 miles an hour. It's okay to.
Yeah. Well, about being on podcasts, like so the whole Walker thing. So like to stay on the premise of, it's like all these things that they're just a part of me, but they don't define me. So when I'm serious in hospital settings, like yeah, I'm serious because that's what my work doesn't necessarily call for that, but in that moment, it's like, yeah, I have to concentrate on what I'm doing. So I'm trying, I am trying to take care of the patient. When I'm off the clock, when I'm off shift, it's like, yeah, I do have this other things like, because a lot of people like, it's funny because like all these people that meet me now, they think I'm like 40 years. They think I'm like 40. I'm like, hold on, chill, man. Like I still got like 10 more years. I'm all 40. Like it's because of the setting, but like you don't know all the other shit that I've done. Because like a lot of people that I meet they're either working on the degrees or they have or they don't have a degree at all. And like for me, and obviously the nurses, they also have degrees. I know I have a few nurses that have multiple degrees, multiple masters. It's pretty cool. Like some of the people I've been able to meet. It's like, no, yeah, like I have a life too, like you fuckers. Like it's like I also have a life. It's not just like work, work, work. Now there's an element of me that I'm very much a workaholic. It
Yeah.
takes me it does take me a good while to burn out. That's one thing I've learned about myself. Like I do eventually, but like it takes like a few years. Like before,
Yeah.
that's a part of what happened for music. It's like that's where that fatigue started coming in. Where it's like I wasn't able to mentally just get into the game again. We'd get on stage and I play a song. I'd be playing along, doing my part of the band's job, and then like halfway through I was just like, I'm tired, I'm done, like I'm cooked. I have nothing else to give.
Right. Right. Right.
I have nothing else to give right now. But yeah, so let's tell this like 20 minutes back to photography and me getting into photography. So it's been so like guitar playing, it's just been another element, and
Right.
I want to buy a 5D Mark IV. I want to upgrade, but right now, knowing that I don't have the ability to take pictures as often as I want, it's like I know the right answer for now is not to upgrade my gear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Because
I mean, the 5D is kind of getting obsolete now. I mean, it's good for wedding photographers, by the
Yeah.
way. Just there's a lot of mirrorless cameras now that Canon are making.
yeah, no, I've seen the R series that are coming. The R series that are
Mm,
coming out.
yeah.
I started looking at them like, so I left my charger. I left my charger. So T6i, I got them when they were relatively new. In 2017, whenever they were new, T6i, I got T6i because it comes with the video capability.
Mm, mm,
Well, when I went to Disney, I left my freaking charger at our very first hotel,
mm.
and I could probably go get it. Like it's not that it's like too far, but I haven't had the time, and I haven't made the time to go get it either, or call and say, hey,
Jeez.
do you have my charger? Anyways, I'm like, well, I was already at the Disney park areas, and I called to 3 different camera shops. That's the cool thing about Southern California, is like there's actual camera shops. You don't get that you don't really get that in Texas.
No, no, not at all.
And so I called and they're like, sorry, we don't carry the charger for that battery pack anymore. We don't carry them anymore. And that was my
No.
answer for 3 camera. I'm like, if these freaking camera shops don't have them, I'm like, oh my God. So like I contemplate, I'm like, do I upgrade now? Am I going to do this now? Or can I make this work? And I have my 2 batteries. So I made it work. It lasted me the trip, which was like 5 days. I was able to make it work, but it did make me think like, man, like I should just upgrade right now. I should just jump in, and this should be my excuse to like upgrade my gear.
Dude, there you can find any excuse to upgrade gear, man.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
it's never ending. It's just never ending. Yeah, I bought the Mavic Air 2
Okay.
last year,
Mhm.
and like the next month they released the Mavic Air 2 S.
Yeah.
Like literally
Dude,
like the
it's
next month,
crazy.
and I was like, dude, are you serious right now?
Yeah. No, yeah,
Like,
dude. I don't, dude. I have one of the Mavics. It's the smaller. It's not the mini. It's they brought the mini like 4 months after I got mine. It's like it's not a mini.
oh, maybe the
It's
Air.
the smaller drone. Fuck. I'm not gonna, I don't want to get it. 'Cause I want to.
That's fine.
But anyways, but then eventually the mini get no, because it was even before the Air came out.
Oh, dude.
I
Okay.
think it's the media. It's the smaller size before the fucking minis came out. It's
Okay.
whatever that one was called. That's what I have, and I just I haven't used it because I haven't. I mean, I just got it back, but like now that's what I've gone to, is like trying to just make my gear work for me now. Like I have a GoPro, so I have a Hero 7.
Right.
I have that the drone, and I have a T6i. That's my gear that I'm running right now.
Exactly.
And even when me and you were texting about like trying to get the Zoom call set up and whatever, and you made a comment of like, oh, audio is probably the most important part of this anyways. I'm like, it really is. It really is. Like
Yeah.
there is an element where I want to upgrade my webcam, or like figure out using the technology I have versus upgrading. But I'm like, for now, the audio is good. I'm okay with that. I never consider myself an audiophile, but I take audio very seriously. Like I prefer very, very good audio. And it's like, okay, I can hear you. You can hear me. We're Gucci. It's all, we can make it work for now.
Yeah.
There will be a time, hopefully, where when editors start coming in and we start having studio. I have a lot of ideas that I want to do when I go back to Texas. And we'll get there when we get there. But like for now, it's like how do I maximize
Yeah.
what I have? Because I think the only great upgrade I've done here is I've gotten the little ring lamp and this microphone.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is microphone is probably the most expensive thing that I bought. It was $250.
Yep.
I think they're a little bit cheaper now, but they have the USB capability with XLR.
Yep.
So like it
It's
works pretty yeah, it works awesome. I can plug in my headphones to the
It's
microphone
at
itself.
It's a Shure. Is it a Shure?
Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
tell. Oh, it's a Shure. Okay, and I think I know. Is it the podcaster or something? Or I forget what they
Yeah,
call it. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what the fuck it's called too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's their most recent, one of their most recent releases because a lot of podcasts use the full Shure one, and that's a
Yeah.
$400 mic. It's
Right.
like for one as a musician and as a person who has gone through several mics, I don't think I need to spend $400 ever for now. There's really some of my favorite guitar amp mics. I never spent over $200 on those
Oh, okay.
yeah, like there was and that's where the trial and error comes in where I appreciate it, where it's like I tried this mic out, it's not the best for my tone, it might be the best for somebody else but not for mine.
Right. Right.
And just going through those microphones, and so knowing those things, knowing what Shure's capabilities are with, because I have multiple Shure mics as well, so again, it goes back to no selling gear, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I saw this, I'm like, okay, if it works, it works. If it's not, I'll return it and then I'll just use whatever I have.
Right. Right.
This one's been the greatest multi-use because when I'm doing a Zoom call, I can use this mic, and if I'm recording on my own, then I can just plug it into my actual recorder, and it's good.
Right,
and it's
right,
good
right.
audio. You can hear me, I can hear you, and it works out pretty well.
Yeah, no, it's and go back to the audio. I mean, audio can ruin a video if you have great image and everything, and then you have crappy audio. It's just gonna ruin the whole experience.
Right.
They go hand in hand. Some people, the audio guys, will argue that audio is more important, and video guys will say, "No, the video comes first, and then audio." That's the way my buddy is. A buddy of mine, he's like, no. He invested like a lot of his gear into the video cameras and lighting. And then maybe like a couple $100 on audio gear, and I'm the opposite. I've spent more of my money on audio equipment, and instead of well, actually,
Probably, but by now, your circumstances now changing because now you're making it I'm not gonna say career. You've been able to turn your photography into a monetize. You've been able to monetize on your photo taking and video creating. So it's different versus like me, where for now, like this is very much a hobby. So like a lot of this stuff, it's because of what I've learned as a musician that I'm able to get the best quality gear that's lasted me. Like these headphones, I've had these. They came out in 2016. I got them in 2017, and then right after that, I started seeing these exact models in every single studio because they were the best bang for your buck for under $200.
Oh yeah.
And even this model, like you can get, there's different like price ranges from $50 up to 200.
Okay.
And even where I was at then, like, man, like, no, like I think the $189.99, I think these would be the ones that can suffice me for everything. Right. Yeah, here we are 4 years later. And like the earpieces are a little worn, but I don't care about that shit. I literally don't care. They work. There's no, like I've been using the same cord. It's all about the quality of the product too. Like that's what led me to using Audio Technica and Shure. Those are probably my top two. Because even my guitar mics, like it's same thing. Like my guitar mics and my vocal mics, they're all Shures or Audio Technicas for the most part.
Yeah,
like that's just what I've run with because that's been my best bang for my buck. Yes, but it's been the best quality. It's been like like there's even some good skull candy like freaking earphones out at Walmart that you can get for like $15, and they're pretty good. Like there's pretty good stuff out there. Like, but you do have to spend the money to find out which ones are worth it and which ones are not. And that's one thing that I have developed is like, it's like, these will do just fine.
Yeah. Well, it's become, because you can end up spending a lot of money on gear and just not, it's just one thing after another. And as everything's become, I don't know, I've become more of a minimalist now when it comes to like, especially even weddings. I carry two lenses. Maybe I'll use a third lens every now and then, maybe, but now I just shoot my weddings on two lenses. Of course,
what are you using?
So I use a 24 millimeter lens for my wide angle shots, and my close-ups and stuff or tighter angle is with a 50 mil, or it's a 55 mil. But yeah, I use a 24
you're using prime lenses.
Primes, yeah, yeah. I
Nice.
don't.
That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool.
I
I was
was
just
running
curious.
zooms. Yeah, I was running zooms for a little bit. I was running the 24 to 70 and then a 70 to 200.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I carry with me.
But yeah, no, I just like the images kind of tend to look a little bland at times. Like when you have like a 24 mil and then like a 55, the photos look completely different. The compression's completely different. But when you're zooming in a wedding from like 24 to 50 to 70 and then 70, 130, and the photos kind of tend to just kind of
Well, yeah,
blend
yeah,
together.
it's the way the glass. It's what the glass does. That it's not. It probably wasn't. It's not ill intended or malintended, but it's like
No,
it's
yeah.
just what the glass does. It's just part of the having a
Yeah.
zoom.
Yeah, I just felt like there was no I guess you couldn't differentiate a lot of the times what focal length it was being shot on. Like there's a clear difference, and there's some people that run 24 and 85 millimeter primes, like, and there is a really clear distinction between what an 85 and a 24 looks like when you deliver the album. So that's what main reason why I did it, and I think now I don't want to. I'm not bragging, okay, but I feel like I'm already experienced now enough where I know when things are going to happen during a wedding.
Yeah, you catch those just nuances of like events, and
you can kind of
events.
time certain things. Yeah, you kind of have an idea when somebody's going to start laughing or when things are going to happen.
Interesting.
And so you catch on to those things. So I don't feel like I'm missing moments right at this point in time of my career, I guess, that because having a zoom lens is that's the benefit. Is like you can like zoom out and zoom in really quickly without missing a moment.
Yeah,
but I don't feel like.
Do you run the zooms like when you're at the event, or you're also using just primes for the event?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, man. So that's why you run. So that's why you run two camera bodies, having both lenses available at all times. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's the stuff that that's where I guess we'll say that's where the geek in me comes out. Because like, what I am curious, even with guitar players, like when we were having shows and stuff like backstage, like, hey, what gear is he? Like, what is he using? Like, I love his tone. Like, what amp is he using? What pedals does he have? What pickups do you have within the guitar? And same thing with photography. Because for me, again, this is me just being curious. Because for now, I have my 24 to 70 and my 70 to 200, and that's one thing that I'm glad I kind of learned a little bit early. And that's probably why I haven't upgraded my body. Not that I shouldn't upgrade my body yet, but realizing that glass is more important. It's like, what could I do the most?
Right.
And like not break an arm yet. Cause I'm not making, I'm not even trying to make money yet. Right. So it's what can I do to enjoy the moment, but not like have this like underlying like thought like, oh my God, I just spent like $5,000 on like this thing. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. The photography, that's the most important thing really is the glass. I'm still running the camera bodies, the Sony, the A7 III, which came out. We're going on 4 years now, I think, of that camera body. I think it's already 3 years old. We're going on 4, how old that camera body is. But it still works fine. I mean, I don't want to upgrade to anything else until I feel like they release a camera that would suit my needs for wedding photography. So, but I am buying new glass, like if I feel like it's going to improve the images.
Yep.
So that's the most important thing is your lenses. Everyone always asks like, oh, what camera should I buy? And I was like, well, you should buy the camera that has the more appealing like glass, like most options for lenses, right?
Dude, there's a couple of Canon power shots that are out right now that I saw at Best Buy, and I'm glad they're finally fucking doing this, but they're releasing. It's like let's just say 18 millimeter to like 33 millimeter, but it's like a 1.8 f-stop. I'm like, that's solid. Like that's obviously it seems like it's more intended for like a vlogging type deal.
Yeah.
But when I saw, I'm like, oh, about damn time, because they were doing like this 5.6 f-stop. Like, no, you need to stop that shit. Like, that's just like getting in the way of like the creator. Like you're trying to give out cheap glass to people that don't know better.
Exactly.
So no, just let them look good from the get go, and and then I'll promote it for free. It's like buy this
those
camera
power
to
shots
get
are
started.
Great. Yeah, they're great cameras for vlogging, and Sony's also trying to compete in that market too. With the because I'm really embedded into Sony at this point now. So
and that's great because I know nothing about Sony, and I jumped on Canon because of Peter McKinnon. That's literally the sole reason. It's literally the only reason why I jumped on Canon. Was like Peter McKinnon uses it. I can't afford a 1DX, but I can afford a T6i.
Exactly. No, that's true. I mean, that's exactly the same. We bought the 5D. We were in Canon. We bought a lot of Canon glass. But what I started noticing was that Sony was making innovations more frequently. Like every year they were releasing a brand new camera, like not even multiple cameras within the year, and it was like, and they were just kind of like building on top of everything that they were doing, and Canon was like kind of sleeper, like
I feel like they really so they've been a sleeper in some sense, but I feel like they really just latched onto the shoulders of like Peter McKinnon and all these guys that use Canon, and they just been using that social media like influence as like, hey, we're gonna run this out until we can't anymore.
Yeah, I felt like they didn't feel the need at the time to upgrade their cameras, right? Because and Sony, so like the fan base started to build up because people were like, well, can Sony do whatever, like video features, like 4K 60 frames, or not even 4K, but like 4K 30 and all this, certain things. And, and Sony was like, yeah, here it is. Like new camera, boom. And then Canon, the fan base for Canon was like, well, can you at least do something similar? And it was just like, yeah, we released a new camera, and it's like, but it was like the same
generally the same.
Just generally the same. Like
I don't even even for me, like, so I haven't done my research for what it's worth, but like going from a T6i to a T8, I don't know if there's any real differences from those Rebel, like the Rebel series. Like I really wonder, because even when I got my T6i, then within like 8 months the T7i came out, and I remember looking at those. I'm like, there's not even for beginners, like there's not much of a difference. You can know nothing about cameras, but look at the specs, and it's like there's not much of difference between the Rebels.
They recently they pissed a lot of the fan base off Canon, because there was a vlogging camera that they make, which is the Canon M50.
Yep.
And it was a great camera. Everyone loved it. And there was a lot of requests for it, and but they released the M50 Mark II. And literally, there's a $20 price difference. And if I'm not mistaken, the only features that they changed were like the streaming, like features were a little bit more convenient.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they changed. They kept it exactly the same, and people were understandably upset.
Yeah. I think so too. For a $20 markup, it's like, okay, like $20 is not that much money, but like I think the people who are in Canon, they do want the best quality camera, because that's what they're looking for. That's why they went into Canon in the first place, because Canon seems to be the first mover that, they got up to the hump, but now Sony's coming up because their A7 series are great. Like I am not opposed to a Sony camera. It's just like, even at this point for me, it's like I haven't upgraded, so it's like I'm not even in the middle of this. I'm not in the middle of a tussle. It's like I just jumped on Canon because that's what Peter McKinnon.
And it's expensive. It's expensive to switch. It's expensive to switch brands too. That's the thing to consider. And that's when people ask me what cameras they should buy, it's like you have to look at the
good glass, like a Nikon with some good glass. Like I've met some pretty cool like music event photographers that they run Nikons with their glasses on point, and like they make it work. There's some guys that even got pictures like me and Eddie, like when we've done different things, and it's like, hey, they made it work.
We make fun of Nikon because they're in the mirror, at least in the mirrorless world, they're kind of they're still behind. Some of my friends
for sure.
But no, it is. I mean, I feel like at this point, if it works for you, it works for you, because you can make your images look however you want at this point, because there's just so much information now. It doesn't really matter.
It's not Lightroom. Peter McKinnon just came out with a video recently, like this week.
Oh, Luminar.
I think it was that one where you can add the bokeh. You can add bokeh to just a picture, and you don't even need the lens focus anymore. Like, fuck.
Dude. Well, Luminar's been around, I think 2 or 3 years now, when they first started making like an appearance on people's social media, and they were doing some crazy things, man. Like for portrait editing and stuff, you can just click a slider and you can make the model's eyes bigger. You can make the cheeks or like the slim down their face.
You can modify, and all these.
And all these things were you needed training in Photoshop. You needed to know what you were doing in Photoshop. And these guys came in and just said, you just use a slider now. You didn't even have to like get all this training into Photoshop.
That's crazy
stuff that would take hours.
And see, that's the stuff that like I don't like. I bet you if I did know about that prior to now, like I could just get all my photos, like just all the photos I've ever taken, and just like throw them on there. Yeah. Use some Lumineer, and then I could just post
even one of the things that they're popular right now is for their sky replacement. So if you're like a real estate photographer or landscape, before you would have to take that photo and you would have to go into Photoshop and mask out the sky like manually and then replace it. Now it's like literally, it's like a click of a button. You just select what filter you want, and it like 99% of the time it'll get it. It'll
Damn.
get even into the small little like spaces between the trees.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
it'll even
Yeah.
get that too, and replace the sky. Like it is nuts what these guys are doing over there.
For sure. For sure.
Never used the software, but just
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Just from watching from me from on YouTube. That's all. That's the only time I heard about it. And
Mhm.
I used Lightroom when I was doing like heavier photography while we were on gigs and stuff
Mhm.
and vlogging. Yeah, I would use Photoshop. Oh, not Photoshop. I would use Lightroom. I would use Lightroom a lot. Um, but
Yeah, dude.
but once I started falling off that little wagon again, it's like I just stopped subscribing because like I wasn't using it. Like, why am I going to use it? It's like Zoom. I only subscribe whenever I'm using it. And I'm not doing lately. I'm not even doing one Zoom meeting once a month. So like I'm not having to pay every single month. I'm just paying for it whenever I need it,
Oh,
so
I
that
got you.
I can make these meetings work. And
Yeah, I
then
got you.
and
I
that's it.
got you.
And a cool thing, it comes with the cloud too. So like I'm able to save like all my content if I need
Oh,
to.
nice, nice.
So, yeah.
Well, that's convenient. I didn't know that
Yeah.
that it has a cloud.
I feel like if you are able to mask out like even 3 Zoom calls per month, then Zoom is a good thing to have. It's a good subscription to have. If
Oh, I
you're
see.
doing if it's once a month, maybe, but you better make sure you have it scheduled to use Zoom to actually use it, because you don't need to spend the $15 a month for now. In my
I
opinion, you
got
don't
you.
need to spend
Yeah.
it every month if you're not using it every month. You don't. That's how I run my subscriptions. That's also me. That's also like the business tier of me is like
Yeah.
I'm not using it. Why am I going to be spending on like, oh,
Mhm.
I have 10 subscriptions and I only use fucking one of them. It's like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, Regina, or my wife Regina, she always gets mad at me because like I was for a while I was having all these subscriptions too for like, and she's like, "Do you really need all these?" I'm like, "Well, I guess not now." But it's so easy to get caught up in all these subscriptions for
Yeah.
photography. Like
It's the same thing with like like physical camera gear. It's like, it's the same thing just on the computer.
exactly.
It's like, I really don't need that anymore. I actually haven't used this in the past 6 months, but I've been paying for it for the past 6 months.
Let me see. You sent me some photos here. I'm trying to
Yeah.
pull them up here, and we could just I don't know if you want to talk about those or
Which one I sent? I think I sent you one from Disney. Was it there's fireworks?
or did you send it to my Regina the
Yeah,
the photo?
you sent me. Yeah, you told me to send it to the Regina account.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, let me see, Brendan. Can you hear the grass in the background or no?
Just now.
No, you
I
can't.
didn't
Okay,
before. I didn't before.
okay.
At least while we're talking, you can't hear it. But when you were searching it and it went quiet for like a split second, like, oh, what? I wonder what that is. It sounded like
Damn.
for me, it sounded like wind, but it's not like it's not a nuisance. It's not like it's not like it's not a. That's what I'm looking for. It's not like overbearing. Like, it's not like crazy loud or anything on my end.
It's just the fact of the matter. As soon as you start recording, it's like, oh, the neighbors want to cut the grass. It never fails.
8 o'clock, or I guess it's 10 o'clock over here on a Thursday.
Yeah.
So I sent you. I think one was the Brooklyn. I think it's a Brook. I want to say it's a Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, right here. Yeah, this one, the black and
So-
white.
Yeah, so that one's the bridge. I'll go into them, but I'm trying to think of which ones I sent you. I sent you the bridge,
Yeah.
and I sent you fireworks. That was Disney World 2019. Which other ones did I sent you? What's another one that I sent you?
There's the fireworks. There's this sunset photo. There's this one that looks like it was like at a music booth or something. Oh, it was of a camera, and it's like
So that's at a gig in Round Rock. That's
Okay.
So I like the neon, the way it was like. At the time, I was using the T6i, but with just the glass that came with 18 to 55 that it came with.
Okay.
And I had it there, and I looked at it. I'm like, I think I can make it look pretty cool with it, with the neon, giving that bluish, all those mixed colors. So that was a gig in Round Rock. What's another one? I sent you. I don't know if you want to talk about. I think I sent you like 5 of them, right?
Which one is like? I think this one looks like this. There's a photo of your dad here, right?
Okay. So we were digging a trench that day. That was a hot summer day.
Okay.
So I can talk. I can give that story.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh man, I don't remember what month it was. I was still in Texas, and my aunt's water line, literally the main line, like to everything in her house. Like I don't remember how the issue came up within the house. I don't know if there was like a leak or there wasn't any water pressure anymore. Either way, we found the water line, and my dad had called to ask how much it was going to take to dig the trench so we can take it out, because we can do my dad, not really me. I was just a helping hand, but it's like my dad said we could do it ourselves. I'm like, okay, like I don't know how to do that shit. Like I'll just do
Mhm.
whatever you need me to do.
Yeah.
And so we found the line, and it was gonna cost like $4,000 for them to dig that trench and whatever. And we're like,
Oh
well, we don't
man.
have that money. My aunt doesn't have the money either. So we just started digging, bro. We started like a Saturday night just to map out where the trench was gonna be. We were hoping it wasn't gonna be the whole freaking water night, but it was. so
Oh no.
so
Shoot.
so then we went. I remember we went on a Sunday morning. We no shit started at like 6:30 in the morning, and then obviously we broke for lunch because it gets hot. It was hot. I mean, this was like July, August,
Oh god. Yeah, it's hot.
down there. So it was like it was hot as fuck, and we just started digging. We just started between the two of us, and then eventually my cousin came over, um, to help us out, and it was between three of us. We were just rotating, just digging, working it down. Because also we needed to see how deep to dig. That was like
Mm.
18 inches down. Like it was a solid like foot, almost foot and a half, over a foot deep, that trench. So
Yeah.
finding how deep to go, and then just working our way back towards the
Mm.
main water line down in the alleyway.
How far do you think the length that you had to dig would be?
It was the whole fucking backyard. It was it 20 feet?
Oh Lord.
So roughly 20 feet, if not, because I don't want to exaggerate either, just because like it took us a day and a half to dig out the trench.
Oh man.
So let's just say 20 to 25 feet by 1.5 foot deep.
Wow.
And so we just trucking, bro. We were trucking. And I remember being done so that day was our first evening that we were getting done. There was just enough sun where I sat there and I'm like, man, this could make for a pretty cool, like in my head, like it just like my dad was there, like right at the end of the trench, and the trench is already almost because I think even at that picture, it wasn't completely done, but let's say we did 18 feet that day.
Oh
Right.
man.
And so I we were just beat, we were just tired, I mean, it's one thing to do like I don't know, like lifting boxes and stuff, but it's another thing to dig, use a
Mhm.
shovel or just manual shoveling out this dirt. And so I sat there, and then I'm like, well, let me see what I can do. Cause I took down with my phone.
Oh nice.
Yeah, I took down with the iPhone. So I have an iPhone XR now. That was probably an iPhone 5 or 7.
Oh damn.
It was a 5 or 7.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah, and because that day, I mean, I didn't have my camera. My objective wasn't a camera. It wasn't
You're right,
photography.
but
It was just
you're
like,
just like digging
yeah,
this
it was
damn
just a
trench.
moment where I'm like, let me put because also with the angles, it was able to, being how small the phone is, obviously getting the phone, I was able to put it down, and I'm like, let me just see how. So I took multiple ones, and I took some at night too, because she had a back porch light, and it shined just perfectly, but I didn't like I had to edit too much. That's
Oh,
another
I
thing
see.
for my preference. I
Mhm.
don't like editing over. I won't do more than 50% on any type of edit. As
Yeah.
far as like adding brightness or anything, I won't do over 50%. That's just my preference.
Cool.
So I did that. So I got in there. I took some photos, different angles, and that one just came out the best. But that's the story behind it. Was digging a trench all fucking day, and it was just hot, and it wasn't miserable though, because we were just there. We had the music on. We were drinking
Okay.
Gatorade. We were staying hydrated. It was what we had to do for my aunt.
Yeah.
She's 92. So it's like, and that, let's say that was 2017. So 4 years ago, she was 80, 88, whatever, 88 ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
There's
like,
no
yeah,
way she would be able to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
No.
No,
No
so
way.
yeah. So, and obviously to not spend 3-4 grand to like get that trench dug, we just did it ourselves, and we bought a cheapish auger that could start our holes as we went down, but then the rest of it was just shoveling out and just making a pile to the side, and yeah, we once we got to the line, we went down like maybe like 4 feet, and we're like, oh, okay, it's broken up to here, and we kept going, it just kept breaking. That's how old the pipe was. I mean, it was PVC pipe. It's probably been there since like the fucking 70s or
Oh man.
I think the story is that my grandpa was the one who put in the last line, which was fucking decades ago. Like that was forever ago. So
Yeah, this is one of the photos that when you sent, this is the one that like kind of stood out to me. I was like, this is pretty cool, dude. You have like, yeah, the leading lines. You got 2 lines leading to your dad, and then the bottom part, even like the dark. So that's the one that stood out to me.
yeah,
It was pretty
there's some
cool.
there's a good contrast, and then the leading lines. And that's the cool thing is like even by that time, like I was aware of leading lines and like contrast and like trying to. And I feel like for me, what ultimately did it as one of my favorite pictures was like even just the dirt seemed like
Mhm.
I made it a little grainy, not too grainy, but I made it just a little bit, because just to get the feeling of the dirt.
Right.
That's
Make
what
it.
we were in that day. We were just in the dirt digging this trench, and that summarized the day, was just being in the dirt.
That's so cool.
So yeah,
I like it. That's one that really stood out. That's
yeah.
a cool shot, man. Is there any one other one like that you like that was that might like has a like something?
The cool. So the Brooklyn Bridge one. So that one was taken January 2019.
Okay. Okay.
That one was on my T6i. Did I have? I think for that because I had a 24 Prime that I
Cool.
owned. However, I for that gig for that for that gig for that it was gonna be one of my last vacations before I went on to do my new thing. Um, and I was actually with Brian. You know Brian
Webinos?
Levinos? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
me,
I
him,
haven't seen him forever.
between him and Freddie, they had some friends that they had made that were from New York. Had to do with Brian's frat and like that whole connection that they had with their frat and stuff. So anyways, so they had some friends generally that lived in New York, and so they had been talking about a trip. I don't remember all the detail, but I remember they were talking about a trip, and then I remember at that point knowing that I was gonna move on to my next thing. I was like, man, like I'd like to go to New York, before I'm not able to, I don't know when I'll be able to again. And I had never been to New York as a tourist or anything like that. So I'm like, man, like how can I maximize like my camera? Cause I definitely taking my camera. Brian actually he has a Pentax, a film
Oh,
Pentax.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. So
is it the K 2000 or something? It might be.
It's definitely a 1000 or a 2000
something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
I had one. I had one. I actually sold it. But yeah, they're good. They're good cameras.
So he has one of those. He had his 50 Prime, and then he had like the zoom, whatever zoom lens it comes with. But anyways, so he had that. But anyways, but as far as glass, I was like, man, like I could take my 24 because I think I had the 1855. But like, man, like I don't want to be working with a 4 f-stop. Like I really don't, especially if I'm able to get good like just individual shots and whatnot. Yeah. Anyways, so my buddy bought acquaintance / friend. He's not he's a buddy. I just haven't talked to him in a long time. He would do primarily car photography.
Oh, okay.
And he had a I think Gear Trend was his blog name or something like that. Anyways, I remember through him. I don't even remember if it was his glass or it was through him that I met somebody that was selling a 24 to 70. Because I had asked Bob, I'm like, hey, dude, like, because he was one of the first photographers that I met back home, like 2016, 2017, that he was actively in the game. Like he was just doing car shows, traveling for car shows, doing his articles for cars. Like, he was doing a bunch of stuff car related, but his camera taking skills was very good. Because his brothers had a band and he was doing like all their video and all their pictures as well. Gotcha. Anyways, so I was like, hey, Bobby, like, dude, like, how can I so I'm going to California. I'm going to New York, and I need like, what would be that one piece of glass that you would take, prime or zoom? It's like, well, prime, I take a 24, and for zoom, if he had a 24 by 70, he's like, I would take my 24 by 70. I'm like, man, like, how can I get my hands on a 24 by 70? He's like, actually, again, I don't remember if he had it or one of his colleagues had it. He's like, I can get you one for sale. I was like, bet. I don't care what the price is. Like, I need it. Right? It's one of those things like, I need it. So that's a long story to like, I got 24 by 70. We went to New York that particular day. I wanted to, because we were only there like 3 days and like 2 nights. It was a very quick trip. And like, I try to maximize, like just do everything I could within those 3 days. So that day we started out very early because I wanted to beat the sun. And that I won't forget this because that day it happened to be overcast. And I was like, man, this is bullshit. Like it was cloudy overcast. Not just like an overcast where it give me a good light. No. It was gray as fuck. And I'm like, man, like, and that was the only day, because that was the longest day we were going to have. That was the longest day stretch we were going to have to like actually explore all the places that I hadn't been to. Because Brian had been, I think Brian had been before. I had never been. And I don't remember if Freddie had been or not. But I was like, I want to start early. I want to get these pictures of things, but also like if there's any like monumental things. Brian's like, well, like I don't know if you've seen them, but there's a people go to that area to take this picture of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the spot. So that's my version of that spot. And so we got there. I'm like, God damn it! Like I just remember, I wasn't even sad. I was pissed off. I was like, this is bullshit. Like the only day we have, there's no sun out, and fuck, like it was just annoying. It was just annoying. It was just annoying.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna take what I can as the light kept, getting a little brighter.
Yeah.
And was it, man, I can't remember if it was that day or the next day, but anyways, to wrap up this day that I took that picture, it was moist. It was a cold, it was January, so it's cold in New York. It's still cold. It's a winter, they actually have a winter over there. So I just started posting up, and so I started as forward as I could and just to work my way back. And I started, and so I could get decent. I wasn't primarily, I was focusing on the bridge. I'm like, how can I make this look good? That's what I was thinking. I actually wasn't thinking about leading lines. I was thinking about light and how can I make this bridge look good? The cars and all that stuff, it helped with leading lines. It helped with all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That just came along with the picture looking as good as I could make it.
I got you.
Because I took probably took 50 to 100 shots
of that.
Working my way back, just 5 feet at a time, just working my way back. Like, nope. Too close. Nope. It looks narrow. It looks so, like from that one, it's so narrow. And obviously, as you start zooming out, obviously it widens up, right? So I just started working my way back 5 feet at a time. Then I'll never forget this fucking asshole got in front of me. I'm like, hey, Dick, I'm taking pictures here. Like he's doing the same thing I'm doing, and he just got in front of me. Yeah, he just got in front of me. I'm like this, and I don't even know if he was a photographer or not. Cause I don't know if he was using his phone or actual camera, because I wasn't so pissed off about that. I was more pissed off about the light, but he literally just got in front of me, like 10 feet in front. I'm like, hey, douche, get out of the way. I'm taking pictures here. Like I'm not even from here. I'm talking like I'm
from New York.
I'm feeling like I'm from New York because you're just in my way and you're being a nuisance. So I started working my way, and that was that. I think that was, so there was 2 streets, and that was the second one.
Okay.
Whatever space was there, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but there was 2 streets in that particular camera where at the beginning of the second one is where I got that shot.
Gotcha.
And that was, man. So there was some editing. I had a colored picture. I don't know. I do hope I have it in my external hard drive, but that's the one that made the cut of like my social media and like stuff like that. Like that's the one where I turned it black and white. I'm like, I like this. And then,
do you know why? Yeah. Why it looks good black and white?
Why? Are you asking me, or are you telling? Or
yeah, well, I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
No, it was a good decision because you lose a lot of saturation and when it's overcast.
Yeah,
and the color.
Okay.
And so if it's overcast, it's actually a good idea to make it black and white. So that was it was a good call. I mean, you probably saw it during the edit too when you were doing color and black and white. You're like, this looks better.
Yeah, it just looked better. I'm like, I didn't mind, but the overcast and the coloring makes sense because I'm like, man, the cars look like shit. Like I didn't like the way the cars were ruining my fucking bridge, and it was annoying. And then once I did go black and white, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna stay. That's And the cool afterthought, I'm calling it afterthought, but the cool thing about that, I have a buddy, he actually just finished his master's degree. Congrats on him. But he's doing like, he does other things. But anyways, he texted me and he's like, hey bro, I want a print of that picture. And I was like, what? I was like, really? He's like, no, yeah. He's like, I did that. He's like, it could no shit be, his comment was like, it could no shit be like for Cologne, like so you have the bridge and you just have a Cologne like down at bottom right. And I was like, oh, I guess you're right. I never thought about that. He's like, but I want a print. So I got him, man, I don't remember. It wasn't a big print, but it was the big as I could afford. Cause okay. In that moment, I wasn't even shooting raw in that picture.
JPEGs,
I was trying to preserve space. Like on my, I wasn't trying to spend a bunch of money on memory cards yet.
Right.
I really wasn't. I was trying to maximize just everything. So I was like, fuck. I was like, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for like someone to say, oh, hey, I want this print. And it took me like an afternoon to like get it decent, and then I gave it to him, and he has it up in his office, which I'm pretty proud of, because if no one else does it ever again, like, hey, my buddy Danny does have it in his office, and he's doing what he's doing, but he has my photo of the bridge up there.
Oh, that's nice, man.
That's the full story behind that picture. That was a cool time, because I can't remember if it was later that because that was like at 6 o'clock in the morning, like local time. So that's
Uh,
you're talking 2 o'clock ish Texas time.
okay.
Oh no, not
Okay.
2 o'clock. Sorry, no. If it was six in New York, it was 4 o'clock in Texas.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was very right at sunrise. It was fucking overcast. Either that later that day or the next day, was when we got a snow day, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
I
nice.
do have pictures, but again, I wasn't thinking about leading lines, and I was just trying to capture moments, and it's like, and I have
Yeah.
them. I'm sure I have those saved in my external hard drive back home, but that's the one that just made the cut there. Because even like the ground's kind of moist, like it's kind of wet from the dew, and
Uh-huh.
black and white. Yeah, it just worked out. It just worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Next time. Oh, hey, next time if you have an overcast day, then just you'll
Focus on a black and white day, like a like
yeah,
as far
just
as like after like a back
in the back of your head, like,
side note.
yeah, this will probably be black and white. And that's if it's overcast and like we have couples and stuff that are like, well, the sun's not out. Like, should we still go? And I'm like, well, do you like black and white photos? Because the black and whites are going to look badass
Yeah,
when it's
yeah.
overcast. If it
There's
doesn't,
definitely something
then,
like there's definitely something nostalgic about black and white, even with modern day technology, modern day
yeah,
bokeh, and like all these things that we have. It's
yeah.
like, man, there's still something nostalgic about black and white, and you feel like you're in a different time. That's how I feel. I don't know about you, but I feel like
Oh
I'm in a
yeah,
different time when it's black and white.
oh yeah. No, that's my favorite, man. That's what I love. I love black and whites. And even back in before I was taking like photography seriously, I found that I was actually turning my photos black and white, like on social media, just for some reason. So it's always been
That's
like
funny.
something that's like been a part of, I guess, my personality, I guess.
Yeah.
It's so
Well,
weird.
it's funny. So like I do have like a little series on one of so I had multiple Instagrams. Now it's just the Andy underscore MWL, but um there's a moment where I was posting only black and whites,
No, nice.
and that was on purpose because now the underlying story to that was because I had just found out in January 2019 that I'm legally colorblind. I see colors, but I can't see I can't. And the book, they give you a little book with numbers, and I can't see
What?
the damn numbers
What?
for lighter shades of green. So lighter shades of green,
Really?
I can't see. For me, it starts turning to like a gray. It starts turning like a gray color. I didn't know
Okay.
this. I could see red. I didn't know this. So imagine going 28 years, I don't know, 28 years of your life and like
You didn't
seeing
realize.
decent color. I mean, I see color, whatever, but like according to medical, I don't see color.
Wow.
I can't legally see color. So I was upset because it's something like I can't help. You
Yeah,
can't
you
change
can't
it. You
change it.
can't adjust it. There's no surgery for it. There's no medical procedure for it.
Yeah.
So for that series, which was like a few months, um, until May 2019, I was just I would just post. It wasn't that I was taking black and white photos, but I was posting black and white photos because like, oh, if I'm colorblind, I might as well just shoot black and white.
Right.
That was my argument, and it was again, it was upset. It was genuinely upsetting because I was like, I can't do certain things because of my black and white or because of the colorblind thing. And it's
There's
funny
a
because like now like I have a buddy and I have a couple some other people that I've met that are grayscale colorblind. Like they're
uh-huh.
colorblind. I'm like, God, like, I'm not that. It's like,
Well, it's this funny. That reminds me of somebody now that he's down here, local photographer. He's just starting out, but I found out that he's colorblind.
it's interesting. Like grayscale or like just like various colors.
I think it's just certain colors, but
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. They just told like, and he didn't tell me directly. I think I heard it from his brother or something. But yeah, like they told me like, yeah, did you know he's colorblind? I said, what? And so because they were talking about his edits when he was first starting out, I guess
Okay.
like they were a little like too harsh or too hardcore or something. And then
A
so
little over
just-
like as far as just the edit, just in post, they were just a
Yeah.
little too much done.
right, yeah. And I think that when you first start out though, that's always the
Yeah, because I definitely I even have prints at home on purpose to be like, don't do that again. Like I'll never print them again. But like in the edit on Lightroom or
Yeah.
whatever I was using to then
Yeah.
print, I was like, oh, that's like terrible. It's not the worst, but
Yeah.
it's not what I'm willing to print out to the
Yeah.
public.
yeah the clarity
It
slider.
it'll work for Instagram, but it won't work for print.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
It's a sign of growth, though. It's a sign of growth that you're getting better. Because if you start looking at your old work and you're like, well, why was
Yeah.
it? I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not doing that again.
The ones that I think about too are like there are some moments where like I'll be driving and like there'll be a decent sunset, and maybe in that circumstance I do need to upgrade the body or whatever. But like there's just some times where I've gotten out like either my phone or my camera, different glass or whatever, and I just can't capture what I'm seeing.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
and for me personally, I just let those moments exist. Then I'm like, you know what? If I can't capture this moment on camera, then it's just for me. You know,
Right.
I can't be more selfish than not taking a photo of something that I want to take a photo of.
Yeah.
But still, like, and again, it's a lot of it's just because of the past 2 years. You know, just going through this whole COVID thing. It's like things have just changed, and it's like, yeah, like sometimes I do just want to exist for a little bit, you know, because of work and whatnot. But it's like, yeah, I just and again, I, I feel like it almost comes off as like a humble, but yet like bragging about being humble. But it's not. Sometimes I just sit down and it's like I just appreciate like what the fuck I'm able to do and what I'm, you know, just sit here. I can
Right.
appreciate that I'm free right now. You know, like all the stuff that, you know, I don't want to. I would like not to go on a tangent on Afghanistan and all that stuff going on over there. But like when you see them, oh, you know, you commented on the little video that I kind of made on TikTok. You just said like, man, you said what's been going on over there. I'm like it's a minute long video, and I put some Gary Vee audio attached to it because like what he was, I don't even remember what exactly he was talking about, but it's like, you know, when you compare yourself, don't compare yourself to Beyonce, compare yourself to like these people who are actually going through like real struggle, not just like, oh, I had a rough day. I don't know, at fucking, you know, my jacuzzi didn't work today. I don't know, it's a terrible example, but like, something like that. Like, oh, my fucking jacuzzi didn't work. The guy who was supposed to come fix it canceled the appointment. Like, it's like, bro, it's not that bad. It's not that serious, you know. Like,
exactly.
Because you know, I haven't even on my podcast. I have not talked about like the current events as far as Afghanistan goes, because I do have an opinion, but it's like, man, you know, like the opposite of having an opinion for me is just sitting down and just appreciating that I'm free. We can talk. I can call you. You can call me. You can text me. I can get text from my home. I can go to Disney. I can, you know, I can do all these, you know, I can give you a trillion reasons of what all the things I can do versus those poor people that are, you know, they're trying to get out, you know, and everything that's going on over there. And it's probably going to come back and all this stuff, all the stuff that was going on before we got there. I know there's politics, and the politics I leave out of it because it's outside our realm as citizens of the United States, right? As society of the United States. So it's like, I don't put myself in that anxiety. I don't give myself the anxiety, but I know that people have it way worse than I do. And so I try to just appreciate, and even if it's not being able to take the picture that I want, but you know, I'll just enjoy this moment. And, you know, maybe I can capture it another time, you know, I'll have a better eye next time to capture it, whatever moment it is.
Yeah. That was definitely an eye opener. Yeah. I'm never going to take for granted the things that we can do, for sure. Because it was just sad. It was so sad, man. It was just so sad just to see people like that. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, generally, I mean, I follow like, you know, military accounts and whatnot, and people that, and also like social media news accounts, not just military accounts, but social media news accounts where I mean, I take everything with a grain of sand when it comes to social media, but it's like, you know, they've been consistent. Like some of these companies have been like there's one called Northern Provision. I for me, it's more like a news account for me because they have like updates, especially like what's been going on in Afghanistan. And like they post pictures where it's like, yeah, like it's just like it's mayhem and people are trying to get out. But now with the Taliban, like the way everything's panning out now, like, you know, a week and a half later, it's just harder to move because they're there, you know, like all these these bad people are there. And it's like, they're saying, no, you're not going anymore. We're not releasing these people anymore or whatever. And now the US is on their final, you know, out, you know, they're on their outtake as far as getting people out. And that's it. You know, people that are going to get out and that's it.
That's so crazy, man.
It is crazy. And yeah, because I mean, if we talk about going back to the beginning of this conversation of like 20 years ago, it's like, you know, 2001, it's like, man, like that's how long it's been going on. Yes, again, there's probably politics, there's probably wrong decisions have been made, you know, accountability not taken, but it's like that's not for me as an individual, me as Andy. That's not for me. I don't even want to comment on it because I actually think about the people and society more than that. So it's like, it's just not part of my conversation as either, you know,
right. Yeah. I try not to look at it from a political view anymore either. It's just looking at them as like, these people they're humans, and they're trying to escape The
Yeah.
Taliban. I mean,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
and it's just so
yeah.
sad. If
Yeah,
you just look at it in a most basic sense, it's just like you just can't. You just do nothing but just feel for them. I mean, you really.
yeah.
It's just so sad, man. It's so sad.
Yep.
Um.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What are the
uh,
pictures? 'Cause I see we did the trench one, we did the New York one.
oh
I,
yeah,
I just
yeah.
don't I just don't know which other ones I sent you because the Disney one. I mean that I just captured. I actually captured those on an 18 to 55 because I didn't have glass yet at that point.
Let's see.
Um, I'm trying to see if there's. Cause I think I sent you 5, but if I can talk, we can probably talk about one more, and then
Yeah.
if you want to wrap up, I'm cool with it. Or if you have anything else, we can continue. I'm good either way.
There's well, this one, yeah, this one at the, you said you took this one at like what's it, the one at the camera, it's like of a Canon with the neon lights,
Okay, yeah. So
or
that
you're
one,
at a trip or something, or
so that one was. I don't think it was one of our last gigs at Round. So it was Round Rock. It's called the not Armadillo Saloon. That's Fort Worth. Back Backwood. No, Backwoods is Corpus. Fuck, I can't remember what it's called. I feel like I'm gonna internally. I feel like I'm gonna be hated for not remembering the saloon. Longhorn. I think it's Longhorn Saloon. I think it's a saloon. It's a bar, outdoor bar / live music venue in Round Rock, Texas, and they have where the stage it's one of the it's a cramped stage. You have too many people, as far as the band goes, but for that, but again, I can't remember if that was one of the first gigs or last gigs we played there because that was one of our monthly trips. Like we'd make it a trip to go through there as one of our routes, for the month, and cool, and it was very hippie, and not like Austin hippie, but like it was just like it was a little bit older crowd versus like a hillbillies, but but the thing is about venues like that was they enjoyed original live music.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah.
Places like hillbillies and like these other venues, especially down in the valley, it's like you have to compensate to get dancers on the floor. But then if you compensate well, you will then be able to play your original music, right?
Yeah.
And given Eddie, I mean, Eddie's such a great fucking songwriter. Like it's I'm trying to think of the word. Like it's I wish there was more that I could have done for him because he's such a good songwriter. He's put in so much work. He has a degree in song, he has a degree in music and all these things, right? Like,
yeah,
like he's so talented. He's a great singer. He's a great lyricist. But anyways, just to retract to this event, it was just a gig and my camera. So I didn't have a tripod or anything for my camera. I would just that's why it's there because I use the wiring of like our mic wiring to like just angle. That's why it's angled because it's the only angle that worked visually for the video. and so again, probably at the end of the night before packing up, that was probably taken again with that's either an iPhone 5 or an iPhone 7. A lot the enhanced is all in post. It's all in post just to make it look pretty cool. It was already a cool picture, but just to enhance it, give it that fade look, give it a more professional look.
Right.
Yeah, again, that was another one where I took several angles. I was like here, and that was the one where it's like, no, I think this captures because you can see like the little touch screen there of our sliders, but then you capture the camera too. It's like that was my life then. I think so. This is probably like in the middle. This is probably like 2017, most likely 2018 at the latest. But because it's recollecting now that I wanted the touchscreen visible with the camera because that was my life at the moment. It was music. It was doing because I was running the soundboard. That's why the soundboard's on that side with my camera because it's a soundboard with me with my camera and I'm singing and we're singing this way. So I was running the board with the pressing record and then
I got you.
and then playing the show. So in that moment, that was my thought was like I want to capture this because that was my life. It's just running sound, playing the gig and recording trying to record along the way and make it a thing.
What's Eddie doing now? Is he's still playing and what is it?
I've told people that I hope to God that he's still, and if he sees this, I hope to God he's still at least writing. I know he got into teaching.
Oh, I see.
I know he was gigging here and there, but I know it turned into more like an acoustic thing. And then he was sitting and actually playing like bass and like background vocals for like other projects.
Oh, I see.
But I know he had started teaching. But one thing I do hope that he hasn't stopped, and I hope that, again, like this is just me talking out loud, is that I do hope that he's at least writing, because I feel like just again the way he writes lyrics, the way he formulates his process to write a song, think about it, write, edit, think about it again, write, edit. Like his ability to do that and come up with all these melodies.
Right.
It's like I hope that he is still writing at the very least. Maybe he's not putting out music. Maybe he's not even working on an album necessarily, or even playing live at this point. But I hope that he's writing because he's good at it. Like he's good at it, and that's one thing that kept us on as long as we could, was like the fact that we love playing his live music. Like all his record that he brought in 2017, 17 hours. That was part of what drew us to him anyways. It wasn't like as many times as we play Highway 281, it's like that was a part of the fun. But 17 hours as an album, like those 10 songs was awesome.
Yeah.
And was awesome. Yeah.
So I've been trying to get that dude in front of my camera for a long time already.
Yeah. He's very much not a social media or like social. We'll say social media, but not that he's not a social person, but it's not a social media person. It's like, God, they're ready.
I know.
I mean, it's funny. You'll probably be able to get him soon, because you can throw this in his face. Is that he was on he was on my podcast for like the because it started off with me, him, and Brian having a conversation.
Oh, okay.
Like definitely the first probably 10 episodes, because it was the first 4. Then the 5th one we brought Gonzo on, so it was a 4-person conversation. And then the thing is, like, my brain started like manipulating the podcast as far as like, oh, like I also want to do this part of it, which it didn't call for anybody else to converse. Like there's an element of the podcast that I reached where it's like, man, I need to do this by myself, or I could talk about Eddie. I could talk to Eddie about this thing on there, but this other thing, I feel like I didn't know how to interact. I wasn't asking enough questions, or bringing enough vague topics to talk about anymore. I started diving into business and leadership and like books that I was reading that other people weren't reading, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that was just the evolution of the podcast.
Oh, okay.
So now I try to keep it at 30 minutes and whatnot. But anyways, you can tell them, hey man, you are moving with life. You can be on my podcast too.
Yeah, or give him a podcast. I just want to take a picture of him. That's all I want.
You want to pick, man? I'm gonna write a note. So I'm gonna text him, be like, hey, let Brendan take a picture of you.
I mean, he's never like just like ghosted me. He'd always like, yeah, man, we'll do it, and then another year comes by. Huh?
Do you know where he lives by chance?
No, I don't. I've always just reached out to him.
I'm not gonna say it on here. I'm like, in case just show up at his house. I'll be like, hey Eddie, I'm outside. I see your truck. You're parked. You're here. Come outside right now.
I've always ever since I first started photography, and I know it was during that time also where he was like, writing his album and stuff, and I was like, hey man, like free of charge. I'm not gonna charge you anything. I just want to take a picture of you, and it's been a while. It's fine.
No, I wish I would have known. I would have told you all the gigs. Like, yeah, come to Hillbillies. We'll be here. We've been great.
Yeah.
And what's funny? So like we can kind of dial in. Well, I guess as we continue this conversation, the funny thing is like knowing what social media could have helped with, especially with promoting and like all these things, like catalog of media, not just music, but of content to post. It's like thinking about it now. It's like, man, like. We could have taken different routes on certain things to keep developing that following. Yeah, that would have been probably a little more, not lucrative, more lucrative for us as a whole.
It's funny that you mentioned that because you listen to Gary Vee obviously, and he's always making things about like how it's so important now. Like you have to do it. There's no like question. Like if you have a business, you have to do it.
Yeah,
and he there's this thing where he mentions like this lawyer who reaches out to him and he was like, I don't understand why the competition, this other lawyer is booking more clients than me. And he's always on social media and stuff, but he's not better. Like, he's not a good lawyer. He's a terrible lawyer, but he's getting all the clients.
Yeah.
And Gary's like, dude, like, are you on social media? Are you all these things? He's like, well, no. He's like, well, that's why. It doesn't have to be better than you. You just, and the same conversation happened with another photographer. Was like, look at these guys, like they're teaching and they're doing all these things and they have this huge following. And he's like, but they're not that much better. They're not better than me. Like, I don't understand. And it's like, well, that's social media, man.
Social media, dude.
And now it's so apparent to everybody. It's apparent to everybody now, but back then.
Yeah, and I wish it was. Oh, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020, and I really don't try to go down those rabbit holes because, like, I know that, goddamn, I know that I messed up, I know, but like in trying to recuperate that time and trying to like post content now, it's like, oh my god, man, like, and now it's like, because it was recently that I actually read both of his books. Within the past month, I've read both of his
Crushing
books.
It, yeah,
Crush It and Crushing It, yeah. So I actually listened to Crushing It first because I figure, I'm like, well, Crush It came out in 2009. I'm like, I might be past that evolution of being able to do that. So I'm like, let me see what Crushing It is about. Once I got through that book, I then read Crush It right after, because I'm like, oh, dude, like, it's actually maybe not too late. You know, like, now it's just about consistency. You know, it's gonna be about consistency and whatnot.
Right, yeah.
And it's like doing things with social media in mind, like doing things consciously, so you can post content depending on what you want to do.
Yeah. That's the way. And I mentioned it already, but that's the way I saw it. Like, it's going to try and help the business at some point. Like, it would people will find me this way, but like, at the end of the day, I mean, even if it doesn't pan out, like, it don't build a huge following. At least I have this stuff documented, right? And I can,
for sure.
When I'm older, I can just look back and be like, hey, man, I was doing stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that's the worst thing that can happen out of all this. It's just like, you know, if I've documented all these experiences and. That's it.
And it's funny because, like, so I had made a podcast account. I had made like actual private like account for me of stuff that I want to share with closer people, but not the world. And in me saving, so the Walker page is now the Andy at MWL page, but basically, if you see anything from like, oh man, when did I start posting on that one again? Like, just maybe the past 2 months. So anything prior is all band related things and all the traveling I got to do and everything I got to do.
Gotcha.
And it's like one thing that I wanted. The reason why I never deleted that. I'm so glad. So there's like 2,000. There's over 2,100 pictures on that account.
Oh wow.
And they're short videos. There are short videos. There's pictures. All this stuff that I got to do since 2012. Everything on that page from 2012 and to current. And when I stopped using that page, because I was like, oh, I'm done with Walker, I'm gonna make all this other stuff for the podcast and blah blah blah. And then I'm like, I'm not gonna erase this, because one day when I have grandchildren, they can just scroll and be like, yeah, this is what the fucking grandpa did, you know, back in his back in his 20s. This is basically all of his 20s, you know, wrapped up into one. And now that I'm back on that page, it's like now I'm just using that. It's like, so I'm just continuing it, but now it's obviously evolved to document, you know, podcasts and just stuff that interests me now, you know, including photography. You know, a lot of those pictures, half the pictures I've taken are with my phone, just because there are moments that I'm either to and from work, or I'm going on a hike, and I just want to capture the hike or whatever. And it's like, it's just, I just need to, I can use it. I have the iPhone XR now. They don't take bad photos, you know, like these phones nowadays, like they don't take bad photos. So it's just a little edit and post, which even then, dude, I don't even like, again, I'm trying to really maximize my thing. So I don't even use Lightroom or anything with Adobe right now. I actually just use Instagram. I use Instagram edit to just, that's my post is Instagram edit. I do a little here, a little there, has some contrast, and then post, and that's it.
There you go. Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. I feel like when having a photography focused podcast isn't really too niche, because I think everybody at some point has photography is part of everybody's lives at this point. Because if you have a cell phone, I mean, you're taking photos with it.
Yeah.
And,
right.
So, but it's just fine. It's fun seeing the different perspectives so far of what photography is to other people. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cool to see. Real quick, I
Yeah.
guess before we can, yeah, because we can wrap it up here a little bit.
Cool.
I wanted to ask you
Hmm.
you said you read like a lot of business books and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there like a top three or for you that maybe you could recommend?
Oh. Yeah. So the book that had the biggest impact on me, the biggest since 2016, it's a book called Extreme Ownership. I've talked about it. I've posted about Jocko
Oh,
Willink is the
okay, cool. Never heard of it.
okay, so
That's
Extreme
cool.
Ownership. I have the first edition that came out like in 2015. I got it in 2016. Started reading it. Um, the cool thing about that book is the structure, and so that you can read it, I don't have to give too much detail about what's within the book, but it gives you. So Jocko Willink, retired Navy SEAL, did 20 years, did multiple tours in Iraq, Afghanistan. He worked with Chris Kyle. Chris Kyle was one of his SEALs,
Oh wow.
2006. Um, and so that's the brief. Now, people who know me do follow me. I talk about Jocko a lot. I repost a lot of Jocko content.
Oh, he was. I saw his podcast with Joe Rogan.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think
yep.
yeah. Okay.
So that podcast. So my buddy Denver, he's a guitar player that I used to play with. This was like January, February of 2016. He said, "Hey man, there's this podcast." Cause he told me about he told all of us about Joe Rogan, and I really dove into podcasts with starting with Joe Rogan. This was 2016, and I was like, "Oh, this is like I had and I was able to sit through a 3-hour podcast and just watch. I was just watching what they were talking about and all that stuff."
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, Denver was like, "Hey man, you might enjoy this podcast by this guy."
Mm-hmm.
Because like the Chris Kyle story had come out and like the movie came out, and now I know it's a terrible movie, but the story had come out. That was the premise of Chris Kyle.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
story came out and all that stuff, and I was like, man, I was really influenced by like just the demeanor that he had and his work, the work ethic they bring, and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. So like, hey, there's this guy Jocko Willink, and so I remember the day I texted. I said, hey Denver, what's the guy's name that you recommended to me? I'm like, I'm on this podcast episode, but you told me about one. I have some time. I'm like, which one is it? He's like, Jocko Willink, this episode, blah blah. So I watched it, and as soon as I watched it, I bought the book, read it, and I was like, huh. So the book gives the war story of the principal. So there's various principles that he's learned in war that he's
Okay.
now realized, and now it's business. Realized that it also tails into business.
Mm.
So the first part of the chapter is going to be a war story, and then a business story of how, because he has he's a consultant now. He does business consulting
Oh,
with
okay.
various other military veterans. They're the ones who make up the group. It's called Echelon Front. So then he'll give a war story, then he'll give a business example, and then at the end of the chapter, he gives the principle of what this all means.
Oh, okay.
And I like that because even when I recommended it out to people, it's like, hey, if you don't want to, don't read the war story. Because I've met some people who are like, I don't want to read about war. I don't want to know about that. It's not their or it's not their interest. I said, okay, read the principle. It's literally cut perfectly for anybody to digest it. Just read the principle. It's giving why. So one example, my favorite one I use to this day is prioritize and execute.
Okay.
So when you feel overwhelmed with having a million things to do, and you're like, how am I going to do all these things? I got to do this at this time. I got to do this at this time. I have to meet with this people. I have to make these meetings for this other thing. I have to, in your case, let's say I have to edit the photos. I have to make this video. I have 3 more clients that want to book me for future dates, blah, blah. So prioritize and execute. So what is the most important thing that needs to get done right now? That's the most crucial to your business. Now, what I do with it and what I've done with it is I expand it out just to my life. Like sometimes like let's just say like when I was back in Texas, I had work. I was making a vlog. My uncle needed help with the car. My other aunt needed a ride to work. Just do that, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I have to do these 10 things in these next 12 hours, right? It's like, well, what's the most important? What can I knock out? And then what can wait? Even if it waits till tomorrow, what can wait?
Right.
That's just a general example of like one of the principles, prioritize and execute, that I use all the time. And even now, like when I'm at work and I have my team and I'm working with my nurse, my charge nurse, whenever we start getting overwhelmed with patients, whatever, it's like, okay, we just run the board. We'll run the board again and be like, okay, who needs what? What's the priority? where does their category so we can make that a priority. Ultrasounds, CT, CTs, X-rays, all this other stuff. It's like we just knock it down, prioritize. Okay, and then we start marking them. Okay, 1, 2, 3 needs X-ray. We start just going through that list, and that's just how I've used prioritize and execute. Anyways,
Gotcha.
Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Leif Babin also worked for Jocko Willink.
Okay.
I could no shit give like the full biography because I just since that time of that podcast, I just been in.
Gotcha.
I've been in the game. Through his, I will say, through his motivation and through the book and stuff like that, and other stories he's had. It's helped me with like also like my physicality and just trying to maintain my weight. I've gained some weight, I've lost weight, I've gained weight again. I'm like trying to lose weight again. It's like all that. It's a balance for me, but that initial push of just being generally healthy has been from his motivation of like, hey, do something. Sometimes it's just going through the emotions, sometimes it's just taking a walk, but do something. Like I've gotten a lot of that from him.
Nice.
Book number 2, which came from the same year. It's called The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell.
Okay.
That book. So Joseph Campbell, man, his backstory is very, not integral. It's very intense. Intense is a decent word I can use. So he was raised. I mean, he has parents, and they allowed him to learn a lot about like Native American history, and like, but also like their culture and like their religious views. So Power of Myth. No shit. Like some days that book would just kick my ass because some days I would literally. So it's a conversation between him and his like basically his interviewer, and but he brings him religion, and for me, what it did for me was it allowed me to believe in my religion, and want to just learn about you. Let's say you weren't Catholic, or let's say you're not Catholic, but we can still have a conversation. Just because of that's what I gained from it.
Okay.
And there were some times where he like I couldn't give you an example right now because I read that book. It's been 5 years since I read that book, so I can't remember give you the detail. But there were some times where he would ask a question in the book, and I would just ponder on that, and that then led me to. It took me 3 months to read the book. It's actually not a long read.
But you just
Eddie has read it. I think if I reread it now, it'd be obviously a different approach. It's been 5 years, but in that moment, it just hit me so hard. It hit me so hard. And that's the only reason why I recommend it, because, if you feel like you're in a tie with like religion, like your beliefs and stuff like that, for me, it instead of closing it more, for me, it opened it up. It opened it up. Nice. And how stories, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or whatever, how these stories are there for our use. They're tools that we can use to then hopefully live better. And you don't have to push, let's say a religion on somebody, but again, you can have a conversation, maybe you asking more questions will then develop their opening to whatever they want to believe in, wherever they feel they need to believe in.
Gotcha.
So that's what Power of Myth did for me.
Okay. I want to check those out because those two haven't. Yeah.
A third book that's made like a mark. Man, that's a good question. So I to be honest, like I've been lucky. I read a lot of. So in 2016, I read 45 books.
Okay.
I was doing obviously at some point I was doing multiple books a month because some of them were shorter than others. I'm looking at my deal here. Okay, so I'm gonna give you 4 books because one. So I got into Stoicism. Have you heard of Stoicism?
Yeah. Is it meditations?
So meditations.
No. Yes.
Yeah, meditation. So Brian actually gifted me. So we had gone even in the podcast stuff like that. At some point in like 2017 or so, I think it was 2017. But at some point, got very into Stoicism, being stoic and putting your feet inside so you can make the right decision. Because for me, that correlated to like Jocko's mindset of like, hey, you need to put your emotions aside so you can make the right decision for the business or for whatever. Right? Meditations. I was gifted again. Brian gifted me this book years back, and it's been one of the books. So Extreme Ownership and Meditations travel with me. Okay, my copies they've traveled with me everywhere and anywhere. Okay, because sometimes whenever I have a chance to read, but I don't want to read some new content, I can just reread because I bookmark them. I have little like bookmarks that I put in there.
Gotcha.
So I can just turn to a bookmark and read it and be like, oh yeah. I did forget about that. Or yeah, I have been using that wrong. Or oh yeah, I've been
Mhm.
using too much emotion for this particular thing. So
Yeah.
meditations and extreme ownership travel with me.
Gotcha. Yeah. It kind of requires, it's just one of those, those two books are, yeah. Oh, no, the meditations is one of
Meditations,
those,
yeah,
you
no, yeah,
just keep it
meditate,
with
yeah.
you.
And
And
for people who don't know about stoicism and think it's like one thing's like one thing I do try to promote is like give things a chance.
yeah.
Like I have a cousin that if the review on the internet is not good, he won't watch a movie based
Mm.
on the review. And one thing I've learned is like sometimes I just want to go to the movie and just enjoy the movie. But there's like more than like 75% of the time I go in there not knowing the background, even for like some like Marvel movies and stuff like that. I
Mm.
go in there not knowing the story content. I go in there not knowing anything, not seeing the trailer, and I enjoy it. I think I might enjoy it way more just because I have no background to it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so like so I would take him to movies that he said, oh, this movie's not good because it says this on the internet. I'm like, let's go watch it. So I'll do the opposite, right? I'll go make him watch it. And like he's like, oh, dude, it's actually not that bad. I'm like, I know, you gotta give it a chance. And so like that's what's for me. People who don't know what stoicism is or stoic philosophy is, you can give it a chance because there's also like you can just take micro bits. There's plenty of
Yeah.
freaking Instagram accounts where you can just take from them. You just take from them
Yeah.
and then go from there.
Yeah. You don't have to
Um,
go full blown, full cold turkey. Yeah.
you
That
don't. You don't.
would.
The last book for me, and the reason why I do want to drop this book is because of it's the book that got me into investing into the
Mm.
stock market. It's
Oh,
the one
okay.
that so I've already been interested in economics and more macroeconomics, so like citywide and like statewide,
Mhm.
those type of economics. I've been way more interested in that and societal economics. I'm calling it societal economics, just how people do things, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But there's a book called there's a book by Tony Robbins called Unstoppable or Be Unstoppable. Let me
Mhm.
look it up real quick. But that book, so he has various books dealing with money, dealing with. Have you heard of Tony Robbins before?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, so he has like I'm Not Your Guru on Netflix. Like
Yeah.
he
He has
has
a
all
bunch
these
of stuff.
things. Yeah, he has
Yeah.
plenty. But going back to the 80s when he was like younger than us, like
Mhm.
he started this a long time ago. So
Yeah.
anyway, so in this, I mean, I'm gonna find out the year. Tony Robbins books. Um, so he was on Gary V
Mm.
to promote this book. It's called Unstop. I know it's called Unstoppable. Where is it? Oh no, Unshakable. Sorry. Oh yeah. So Unshakable, Your Financial Freedom Playbook.
Mm.
It's called. And so he has other books. Like the main one is called Money Master the Game is part of his main book that came out I think
Mm.
early 2000s.
Yeah.
Now that book's like 500 pages.
It's a
Like
long
it's
book. Yeah.
crazy. Like that one, Awaken the Giant is freaking long too. I haven't read either one. I started Awaken the Giant, but my friend needed it back, so I gave it back to them. But he was on Gary Vee promoting Unshakable, and he talked about it. I'm like, man, like I think I should. I think that's gonna be my next book. Comes out
Mhm.
like that next week. I just read through it. And I'm like, oh, I need to. I think with this, I can. It's not that I already knew I needed to start investing, but this book was like my gate to like, oh, now I think I know how to.
Mm.
I can at least start and learn along the way.
Mm. I
And
see.
so I mean, now I've been investing for 5 years since I started May 2017. May 2017 when I opened my account. So I've been investing for a solid 4 years and a few months by now.
Okay.
But that's the only reason why I want to promote that. Why I self promote that book because so many people are scared. Like, what about you? What if you lose your money? What if there's another crash?
Mhm.
Now, all those things exist. Yes, they
Mhm.
do exist. But when you look at the math, and this has enough math, basic math to just understand what's going on. Again, that's what helped me dive into the game.
Mhm.
And now 4 years later, I want to help people, but also like I need I need to help build their confidence in the market first before I can actually just say, hey, go do this.
Right. Right.
Because
Well,
again, it's something that's worked for me. It's not gonna work for everybody, but it's
yeah.
worked for me. And it's worked out for me this past 4 years. I've been lucky to have some decent gains over the past 4 years.
Yeah, no, it's I think the most important thing is just starting. And starting early if you can, because the compound interest is just
Yeah.
what is it, the fifth
And
wonder
see,
of the world?
yeah, exactly. And he talks about, the basics of compounding interest and what it means. Like if you invest,
Yeah,
I think in here, he uses like 36, if you invest 36,000 by the time you're 30, then you'll have you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 65. Like if all you do is 36,000 by the time you're 30 and you just let it compound in an index fund, like you'll be good. Like
Yep.
you'll at least be better off than if you're not, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so for me, feeling behind as hell, like I put a lot of my cash into there. Like and it's not only index funds, but like it's investing in general.
Right.
I've definitely dove into individual stocks. I have Apple and stuff like that.
Yeah. Dogecoin. No, I'm just kidding. Well,
Dogecoin?
I have Dogecoin. I have Dogecoin. I do.
I do too. Yeah, I got some Dogecoin
and some AMC, and I got lucky, man. I bought it right before the
that initial
right before the little hit. Boom. Yeah. A friend of mine told me, he was like, "Dude, just buy it." I'm like, "All right, fine." And so we bought some, and sure enough, the next day it was just like it just skyrocketed.
Yeah. So I've missed a couple. So I got in Doge at a decent point, and for AMC, for some of those Reddit the meme stocks.
Yeah. So funny.
I'm not in. Yeah. Well, it's funny that made me think. It made me broaden my scope because I'm like, oh, meme stocks, because meme stocks wasn't a thing before this AMC thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But now that it is, now it's a market.
Yeah. It is,
we don't have to claim the name or anything, but it's a market now.
Yeah.
Because people are only investing in meme stocks now. Some people, people that don't know, but they're like, oh, I'm gonna trust XYZ. I'm gonna trust Reddit, and now they're in meme stocks. It's like, oh, now at least you're in the game. Long term for those, I don't know. I do more like a 5-year basis research before I start investing. I see what a company has done over the past 5 years. I see, are they evolving? Have they grown over the past 5 years? How is the media talking about them? And I'm trying to think if there's anything else as far as investing. But those are probably some of my key factors. Like 5-year, what have they done in the past 5 years on the stock? How are the media talking about them? And are they trying to evolve? I'm like at a 85% like good hit rate. There's been a couple where I've sold off because I'm like, for one, they're not doing anything. For two, now they're kind of stagnant as well, like just in their business, evolution. Like, I'm not interested if you're not growing,
Right.
That's my approach. But if I could give a fourth book, it'd be Unshakable, because that's the book for me that led me to just make that hump. And like, you know what? You have to trust the market sometimes. You have to get in the market and let it do its thing, and then let it play out. Long-term investing is a game, not short-term investing.
Short-term is
let it sit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, those are the ones, man. Extreme Ownership, Meditations, The Power of Myth, and Unshakable. Those would be my four books that I
haven't read any. Well, just the Meditation. So the first two that you recommended, for sure, we're going to check those out.
Yeah. Power of Myth. Again, Power of Myth. There used to be a because they videotaped the conversation, then they turned it into a book.
Oh, okay.
But the book, it's pretty good. I actually have it's not a first edition copy, but so at like Barnes and Noble stuff, you can find like just the paperback copy. When I was in Nashville, actually, and that's the reason why I started reading, because I found it in Nashville. I think it's called, the bookstore's called McKay's. They have like used media gear, like not media gear, but used video, like DVDs, media, plethora of books, new and used. And I found it there. So this one was the font was made bigger, but they had pictures in it. And when I saw, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like I wasn't even going into it with the intent of buying that book, but it was like a day that we were out chilling, went to McKay's, and I bought that one and I started reading it, and so now I have that one at home, and I have a paperback that I carry with me. That one I carry with me. Just, I haven't reread it in probably like 2 years, but I carry it with me. So, because when I see it, it's like, it takes me back, especially not if I'm having a rough day, but it's like, hey, if I need to kind of get my bearings straight, that book, just seeing it there in my little shelf of like, oh yeah, I need to kind of draw back a little bit.
Look at it. Yeah. Cool, man.
So yeah.
Well, I don't know how long. Yeah, it's already
a couple hours.
Wow.
We did 2 hours and 10 minutes. Yeah.
That's pretty good, man. I mean,
I stopped. So just to give everybody some insight on like how my approach on the podcast is, like, we just go for conversation. We had this conversation. I'm glad you brought the pictures. I wasn't sure what you wanted for. I wasn't sure if you can like post them, like use them, like just like, hey, these are the pictures that Andy posted or whatever. Um, and some of the stuff that I talked on here, I haven't talked about with anybody else or on or not that I haven't talked with anybody else, but on a platform. I haven't talked about it, as far as working in healthcare, as far as the photography thing, and some of the story behind my photos, and what I think about. A lot of them are they're just times where I'm like, yeah, this is either this is part of my life right now, or
Yeah.
I felt like dirt. So the trench thing, like I just feel like dirt. It's like I'm taking a picture of the dirt. But yeah. And as far as times, like, yeah, sometimes you do 2 hours, sometimes you do an hour. That's just the way it is.
Cool, man. Well,
Yeah.
I think this is great. It was a great conversation, man. It was good catching up, actually, because I haven't spoken with a lot of people since.
Well, yeah, we briefly touched on that. Like, yeah, I know you're gonna have some other guests on that we're all acquainted to, at least from high school and whatnot. And like, man, I haven't seen some of those people in like 10 years.
Yeah, we're doing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, we're doing Gabriel Pena. I think next week. So cool. That's also going to be pretty cool. Not what photography days, related, but
gotcha. Right. Yeah. What days are you thinking about posting your these episodes? Like, is there like a day, or are you just going to be posting as you record them?
I think at least once a week, so I can, because I was doing them like as soon as I got the medit. Yeah. But I think maybe just once a week, so I can spread out because I'm not that I'm running out of like guests to have and stuff, but it's just I don't want to get to the point where like I'm like scrambling to try and get like guests and stuff. So I want to have like a good lineup at least a month or two out before. And so way just once a week, yeah.
Cool. Should be, yeah. But do you know what day? Like, was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
When did I post this one? Wednesday, Tuesday. So maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm just curious, so I can make a note of when you're going to be posting this.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I post. So when I do post, my general conversations, it's going to be on Thursdays, and then I have a music. So I had started a music section of my podcast, and I do those on Fridays. I post those.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad. The cool thing was catching up too, because I even text Brian, because me and Brian were talking about something else, and I was like, oh yeah, side note, like I'm gonna be on Brendan started our podcast. I'm gonna be on his, and then we'll go from there. That was part of the general thing too. It was like it would be good to catch up and just see where we're at. I mean, obviously we follow each other on social media. Primarily Instagram. I don't have a Facebook. I'm gonna get a Facebook again, but I don't have a Facebook at the moment. As far as like Instagram, it's like, yeah, seeing that you're really developing your photography and really you're able to jump in, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just crazy how it happened. Now it's more focused on building it, but it's crazy how it happened, man. It just, I didn't understand at first, like, why are people paying me to, like, I don't get it, but I mean, I'll do it. And I just kind of kept going with the flow. And now I'm like, I'm seeing what it can become. And I'm like, okay, I'm all in now. Let's do it.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Awesome. Well, it was good talking to you, bro. We'll talk whenever. We can have a conversation next month or whatever you want.
Yeah, dude.
If you ever need guests, just call me up, and if we can line up our schedule, we can just line it up.
Yeah. Or if you want to have me on yours, or we can do that too.
We'll do that. We'll do that for for 2-3 weeks from now. We'll see. We'll see where we're at, and then we'll just plan it out and have a conversation.
Yeah, I'm totally down. Now I know how to do the whole Zoom and setting everything up. It took a little while to figure it out, but now we've got it figured out. So
very cool.
We're good.
Sounds good, bro. We'll talk. Well, I'm gonna push my social media. You can push yours after I'm done with mine. So anything to Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, it's all at Andy_MWL.
Okay, gotcha.
That's all and those are the main ones that I use. Like, again, I'm gonna create a Facebook, but more for like the page, like the actual page, like media page.
Gotcha.
I'm not. I deleted my Facebook for a fucking reason. I deleted it for a reason. I'm not looking to ramp that up again. So there's that. I always promote. If any questions or conversations that you want to have privately, this goes for anybody listening to YouTube as well. But podcast.millennial@gmail.com is the email that I have accessible for that.
Okay.
And general comment, again, any questions. I like questions. I like comments, like conversation. I like conversation more than anything. So that's what that's for. Social media, there's an email. Working on merch. This is the only thing I have, and some stickers. But
cool.
That's about it.
Moving with life, right? Is your,
moving
podcast?
With life. Yeah, moving with life is a podcast.
Gotcha.
Moving with life is a podcast. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and some like third party
Mhm.
like podcast like pushers
Mhm.
that I don't even know about. So
Yeah,
they're out
yeah.
there. They're out there in the internets, out there in the world. What's your
Cool,
so photo
man.
by Brendan? That's your main photography page, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Photos by Brendan, and then everything else. Social media is usually my name. You can find me at Brendan Lee Rogers. Everything else. So the Photos by Brendan is the wedding page, and then social media, branding, and all that. It's just my name, Brendan Lee Rogers. So and this podcast is what's it? The
What
quick
is your
flash.
podcast name? The Quick Flash. I followed. I know I followed it. I know you told me about it. I followed
It was
it.
hard trying to find a name, man. I was like, and so I was like looking at this, the Quick Flash podcast. So like I was trying like photography, and yeah, I don't know. That
Yeah,
sounds cool.
I understood it, but I'm like, I that's why I asked you, like, is it general conversation? Are we diving into like one direct? Is this like a 30-minute like narrow like niche podcast or not? Okay, that'll work. That'll work. And it'll be cool because I'll be looking forward to seeing your evolution of like how you do your
Yeah,
evolution of
exactly.
podcasts. Because I feel like you as a creator, you will get to this point where you're going to be talking in front of the camera by yourself, and then you're going that route.
Yeah, exactly.
With guests and without guests, you'll be doing both.
Just never know. Yeah, you don't know what you have an idea, but you just don't know what's going to happen with whatever you do, like the YouTube channel and the podcast and my photography, everything. You just don't know.
Yeah,
you just
everything, all
you
the
just like I want to know. I want to see what the end goal is. But it's
Very cool.
part of growing, man. It's part of growing. So.
very cool.
Well, again, thanks, Andy. I appreciate.
Hey, bro. Yeah, it was good talking
everything.
to you. Yep.
Cool, dude. All right, I think that's it. Do I just
Hold on
leave
one
or?
second. One second.